Chapter 678. Zhang Fan had seen how Qin Yu killed Zhou Xian without the slightest hesitation earlier. Zhang Fan had thought that even if Qin Yu didn't kill him, he would still humiliate him. However, who would have thought that from Qin Yu's words, it seemed like he was planning to let him leave this damned place safely. Qin Yu. Zhang Fan looked to Qin Yu. He didn't know what to say. Qin Yu swept his gaze over the surrounding god kings. He was able to sense the nervousness and fear in the hearts of the god kings present. Thus, he directly announced, "Among you all, the Azura god king Luo Fan, Zhang Fan, Huang Fu Yu and the blood demon queen Yu Cha, these 4 people can leave safely." The 19 god kings present all had marvelous expressions. This Huang Fu Yu was both happy and angry. He was happy because his life was saved. He was angry because Qin Yu actually did not let his brother Huang Fu Lei go. The 4 people that were safely let go by Qin Yu all possessed their own backgrounds. Luo Fan was Hou Fei's master. Zhang Fan was after all Zhang Li's father and Zhang Lan's big brother. Huang Fu Yu had shown some kindness to Qin Yu. As for the blood demon Queen Yu Cha, through the water screen, Qin Yu was able to clearly see the discussion of the god kings on the exalted celestial mountain. He also remembered the blood demon queen's words. "Zxin, to be honest, I do not believe that little brother Qin Yu would die. Come, accompany me to check it out." The reason why the blood demon queen Yu Cha chased after them was not because she wanted to kill Qin Yu. Instead, it was because she did not believe that Qin Yu would die like this. She had only come to check it out. Qin Yu waved his sleeve. Immediately, a black tunnel appeared not far away from them. The 19 god kings all looked toward this tunnel. They all knew that this tunnel was likely the tunnel to return. This tunnel leads to the divine realm. "Brother Luo Fan, you all can leave now," Qin Yu directly said. "Qin Yu, where's my brother Sun Lian and my sister Lu Lian?" The Azura god king Luo Fan did not leave. Instead, he stared at Qin Yu. He could not give up on Sun Lian and Lu Lian. Zhang Fan also did not leave. Instead, he looked to Qin Yu and said, "Qin Yu, where is my floating snow city's Zhongxing? He and Li Er are siblings, although they are not blood-related siblings." At this moment, Zhang Fan could only have Zhongxing form a relationship with Zhong Li. "Qin Yu, where's my big brother, Huang Fu Lei? You won't kill him, right?" Huang Fu Yu looked at Qin Yu. When Qin Yu saw this, he understood even more clearly. Quite a few of these god kings were involved with one another. It would probably be impossible to release a few of them by themselves. Alright then. Brother Luo Fan, Brother Huang Fu, I'll tell you how I plan to deal with these god kings. Qin Yu's voice suddenly became cold. The hearts of the 19 god kings immediately tightened. Qin Yu's gaze swept past the 19 god kings. He said coldly, "Other than Luo Fan, Zhang Fan, the Blood Sea Queen Yu Cha and Huang Fu Yu, the other 15 god kings only have 2 choices. One is the path of death. The other is to become the servants of my purple mystic mansion." Qin Yu said with an expressionless face. The 19 god kings present were all startled. Even Hou Fei, Zhang Lan, Zhang Li and them were surprised. Earlier, they had been discussing who to kill and who to release the entire time. Never had they expected that Qin Yu wanted those god kings to become the servants of the purple mystic mansion. Sage emperors becoming servants. Not bad, not bad. Hou Fei's eyes shined. Path of death? Servants? Shun Tuyen frowned. He looked to Qin Yu. "Qin Yu, if we were to choose to become the servants of your purple mystic mansion, how long would we have to be servants? Could it be forever?" "It can't be considered forever. Merely, you all will be able to regain your freedom the next time the exalted celestial mountain descends," Qin Yu said with a light smile. Of course, it is also uncertain whether the exalted celestial mountain will descend in the future. To put it simply, it would be 6 quadrillion years. Among the 15 of you, the majority of you would have to be servants of my purple mystic mansion for 6 quadrillion years. After 6 quadrillion years, you all would regain your freedom. Majority of us. The blood demon Queen Yu Cha looked to Qin Yu. Qin Yu, are there any differences among these 15 people? Qin Yu smiled and nodded. That's right. Among these 15 people, there are Huangfu Lei, Duanmu Rufeng, Shintian, Jiang Xing, Zxin and the Blood Sea Queen. These 6 people only need to be servants of my purple mystic mansion for 100 million years in order to regain their freedom. Huangfu Lei, Shen Tian and many others heaved a sigh of relief. To God King level experts, 100 million years was not a long time. After all, Huangfu Lei and Shen Tian's lifespan was 102 quadrillion years. However, being servants for 100 million years was not something that they could not endure. Let's go. Everyone, please follow me into the Purple Mystic Mansion. Let's talk about this slowly in the Purple Mystic Mansion. How about it? Qin Yu said with a light smile. The environment of the Purple Mystic Mansion was very beautiful. As the God Kings followed Qin Yu and the others into the Purple Mystic Mansion, their hearts slowly calmed down. Qin Yu brought the group of God Kings and directly arrived at a garden in the Purple Mystic Mansion. This is the Flowing Water Garden. There are several tens of pavilions in the Flowing Water Garden. In the future, some of the God Kings will live here. Many God Kings suddenly felt that being servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion was not something that was too hard to accept. Servants? Qin Yu, what do you want us to do? Putai Hong suddenly said with a loud voice. I, Putai Hong, am the Southeast Sage Emperor after all. No matter what, you can forget about humiliating me. Immediately, Tang Lan, Mu Qin and many other God Kings looked at Qin Yu. To experts like God Kings, there were times when they would rather die than be humiliated by others. Qin Yu looked at the God Kings and said with a light smile, Don't worry. I'm not that despicable. Once you choose to be servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion, you only need to live in the Purple Mystic Mansion and occasionally guide some of the younger generation disciples of the Purple Mystic Mansion in their cultivation. Alternatively, you can also defeat and drive away those who challenge the dignity of the Purple Mystic Mansion. Apart from that, you don't need to do anything else. Moreover, to the ordinary people of the Purple Mystic Mansion, I will only say that you are people that I invited. How about that? Tang Lan, Mu Qin and the other God Kings looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with joy. If Qin Yu really did that, they would be able to retain their dignity. Only a few people present knew that they were servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion. Outsiders did not know. Tang Lan and the others were also certain that the others would not spread this huge scandal. Of course, some of you are sage emperors. Sometimes, you still need to show yourself. Being servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion does not mean that your freedom will be completely restricted. Like this, every 10,000 years, you will have a chance to leave the Purple Mystic Mansion for a year. The rest of the time, you must stay in the Purple Mystic Mansion. Qin Yu said. Tang Lan, Mu Qin and the others all relaxed. Under normal circumstances, sage emperors rarely needed to show themselves. Since Qin Yu had said that they would be given a year of freedom every 10,000 years, to them, it was already sufficient. Good, I agree. Duanmu Rufeng was the first to agree. Among the 15 people, 6 of them were only servants for 100 million years. This Duanmu Rufeng was one of those 6 people. She knew that she did not show any mercy to Qin Yu. For Qin Yu to still do this, it was likely because of Duanmu Yu. Thus, Duanmu Rufeng naturally knew when to advance and when to retreat. I also agree. Mu Qin also agreed. One by one, the God Kings agreed in succession. Even the Azura God King, Jiang Fan, Huangfu Yu and them felt relieved. Qin Yu had only allowed those people to be servants in the Purple Mystic Mansion. Furthermore, he did not publicize it. This had already caused them to be extremely satisfied. Blood Sea Queen, only you remain. The Azura God King looked to the Blood Sea Queen and said. Indeed, at this moment, only the Blood Sea Queen did not express her opinion. Blood Sea Queen, it's merely 100 million years. You couldn't possibly refuse even this, right? Ma Tian said from the side. The Blood Sea Queen Shui Yun looked to Qin Yu and said in a low and deep voice, "Qin Yu, is it possible for me to talk with you alone?" "Oh, talk alone. Sure." Qin Yu muttered to himself. In the end, he nodded and agreed. Qin Yu and the Blood Sea Queen entered a secluded little courtyard in the Purple Mystic Mansion. In the Purple Mystic Mansion, with a circumference of close to 1,000 miles, there were indeed many secluded and spacious places. "Blood Sea Queen, go ahead and speak." Qin Yu looked to the Blood Sea Queen. "I do not wish to be a servant of your Purple Mystic Mansion." The Blood Sea Queen Shui Yun looked to Qin Yu and said resolutely. Qin Yu was slightly startled. "Blood Sea Queen, you have never been lenient toward me. Right now, I am only asking you to be a servant of my Purple Mystic Mansion for 100 million years. Could it be that this is also not allowed? Not choosing the path of life, you're choosing the path of death?" Qin Yu's voice grew cold. It seemed that he was being too benevolent. The Blood Sea Queen Shui Yun immediately shook her head and said, "No, that is not my intention. As long as you do not want me to be a servant of your Purple Mystic Mansion, I will tell you the reason why I gave up on the first-rate Grand Mist spiritual treasure at the final moment." Hearing those words, Qin Yu was unable to help himself from feeling a trace of interest. Back then, the Blood Sea Queen had used Zi Xia and Hong Yun's lives to threaten him to obtain a first-rate Grand Mist spiritual treasure. In the end, he was about to agree to it. Yet, the Blood Sea Queen suddenly gave up on it. Why? Very well, I promise you. Being a servant for 100 million years was not a problem for her. Thus, Qin Yu directly agreed to it. The Blood Sea Queen Shui Yun displayed a joyous expression on her face. She was merely giving it a try. Unexpectedly, she succeeded. "Blood Sea Queen, it is best that you quickly tell me," Qin Yu frowned. The Blood Sea Queen Shui Yun took a deep breath and then said, "That is because at the final moment, someone directly sent me a divine awareness voice transmission. He told me not to threaten you, not to threaten Ho Fei and them. Someone sent you a divine awareness voice transmission. Yet, you still listened to him? Could it be that he was an exalted celestial?" Qin Yu immediately deduced. Was it the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial? Qin Yu immediately thought of the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial. Qin Yu already had some deductions in his heart. This Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial was most likely that silver-haired, silver-eyed youngster from back then. If it was him, then everything would be easy to explain. That's right, it was an Exalted Celestial. However, it was not the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial. Instead, it was the unfettered Exalted Celestial who had some friendship with me back then. At this moment, the Blood Sea Queen was extremely straightforward. She directly explained, "Unfettered Exalted Celestial?" Hearing that, Qin Yu was slightly surprised. It was not the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial that he had anticipated. Instead, it was the Unfettered Exalted Celestial. This Unfettered Exalted Celestial should be rather considerate toward Qin Yu. Back then in the Mountain Sea Palace, this Unfettered Exalted Celestial had directly appeared and given Qin Yu a spiritual treasure. Why would this Unfettered Exalted Celestial help me and Fei? Qin Yu felt puzzled. "Blood Sea Queen, how much do you know about this Unfettered Exalted Celestial?" Qin Yu looked to the Blood Sea Queen. "Do you know the reason why he helped me and Ho Fei?" The Blood Sea Queen muttered to herself. "Before the Unfettered Exalted Celestial became an Exalted Celestial, I had a friendship with him. However, ever since he became an Exalted Celestial, I have rarely seen him. Thus, I do not know why he helped you and Ho Fei." Qin Yu nodded slightly. Unfettered Exalted Celestial. A question arose in Qin Yu's heart. Divine Realm. The Purple Mystic Mansion had once again returned to the Divine Realm. The entire Divine Realm appeared to be exactly the same as before. Merely, not many people in the Divine Realm knew that many of the God Kings who stood at the peak of the Divine Realm had actually become servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion. Inside the Purple Mystic Mansion. "Big brother, you should just stay here for 100 million years. It's merely 100 million years. it will pass very quickly. Huang Fuyu consoled Huang Fu Lei. Sun Lian, Lu Lian, the two of you should properly train here. With me in the Azura Sea, no one in the divine realm will be able to touch it. The Azura God King Luofan also consoled them. One by one, the God Kings bid their farewells to each other. After that, Zhang Fan and the Blood Sea Queen flew out of the Purple Mystic Mansion in succession. As for the other God Kings, they all stayed in the Purple Mystic Mansion and began their lives as servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion. Brother Luofan, please wait a moment. When the Azura God King was about to leave, Qin Yu called out to stop him. Qin Yu, do you need something? Luofan looked to Qin Yu. Luofan did not have much resentment toward Qin Yu. After all, they were ruthless toward Qin Yu. For Qin Yu to be able to do this and still preserve the faces of the God Kings, it was already very good. Brother Luofan, I know that you were entrusted by a person to teach Ho Fei. However, I do not know who that person is. Can you tell me? Qin Yu asked. The Azura God King was startled. You're talking about that person? After muttering to himself for a moment, the Azura God King nodded and said, Okay, I'll tell you. The person who entrusted me to teach Ho Fei was precisely the greatest backer of our Ascender realm, one of the three great exalted celestials, the unfettered exalted celestial. Unfettered exalted celestial, it's indeed him. Qin Yu's eyes shined. Chapter 679. After bidding farewell to that Azura God King, Qin Yu returned to the Purple Mystic Mansion with a pensive expression. Qin Yu had already guessed that the unfettered exalted celestial ought to have some sort of relationship with Ho Fei. Regardless of what sort of relationship that unfettered exalted celestial and Ho Fei have, it is useless for me to let my imagination run wild. Only by having the two of them meet each other would I be able to understand. Qin Yu was frowning. That unfettered exalted celestial is not a God King. Even if I wanted to find him, it would be very difficult. With an intention from Qin Yu, the spatial energy of the new cosmos covered the entire divine realm like an ocean. Everything in the divine realm was within Qin Yu's observation. Three great exalted celestials, I am unable to find a single one. Qin Yu felt a bit helpless. Suddenly, Qin Yu started to laugh. Although he did not discover the three great exalted celestials, Qin Yu discovered that the God King servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion were all spreading out their divine awareness and contacting some of their experts. Of the 8 great sage emperors of the divine realm, only my father-in-law and Huang Fu Yu have returned. Among them, Zhou Xian has died. Of the remaining 5 sage emperors, Shun Tuyen and Duanmu Rufeng will have to stay here for 100 million years. As for the other 3, they will have to stay here for 6 quadrillion years. When Qin Yu thought of this, he started to laugh. Back then, when he had brought a group of God Kings into the new cosmos, Qin Yu had racked his brains over how to handle these God Kings. However, after thinking about it, killing the God Kings would merely be a temporary relief. It was better to have these God Kings as their servants. That would be more comfortable. Currently, of the 8 great sage emperors with the highest statuses in the divine realm, 5 of them were their servants. Who had ever possessed this sort of honor? Zhou Xian has died. Right now, the Thunder Punishment City does not have a single God King. As for the Zhou clan, there are quite a few high-level heavenly deities. Who should I give this Thunder Origin spiritual pearl to? As Qin Yu walked away, he started to ponder. Light Lens City. In the current Light Lens City, the only God King that was truly residing in the Light City was Duanmu Yu. However, compared to the other 7 great holy lands, Light Lens City was considered pretty good. Who would have thought that among the 8 great sacred grounds of the divine realm, only the Floating Snow City, Mount Dazzling Gold and my Light Lens City only have 1 God King each. As for the other 5 cities, even if their God Kings are still alive, they would have become servants in the Purple Mystic Mansion. In fact, all of the God Kings in the Thunder Punishment City have died. Duanmu Yu bitterly smiled and sighed. At this moment, Duanmu Rufeng was speaking to Duanmu Yu through Divine Awareness voice transmission. Duanmu Rufeng did not conceal what had happened in the new cosmos from Duanmu Yu. Of course, Duanmu Rufeng did not know that Qin Yu had led them to the Neoverse. Duanmu Rufeng had only told Duanmu Yu that it was Qin Yu's world. Duanmu Yu, your aunt can be considered to be lucky. You have a friendship with that Qin Yu. He is only planning to have your aunt be his servant for 100 million years. The three sage emperors Tang Lan, Mu Qin and Putai Hong will have to stay there for a total of 6 quadrillion years. Duanmu Rufeng said via divine awareness voice transmission. Although those god kings had no choice but to stay in the Purple Mystic Mansion, their divine awareness was capable of covering the entire divine realm. Even if they did not leave the Purple Mystic Mansion, they were still able to use divine awareness voice transmission with their own people. Duanmu Yu, your aunt is here. I'll leave the matters of the Light Lens City to you. Duanmu Rufeng continued. Duanmu Yu, your friendship with that Qin Yu is pretty good. You must maintain this friendship. This Qin Yu's strength is truly too frightening. Furthermore, the speed at which his strength increases is even more astonishing. In the future, no one in the divine realm will be able to resist this Qin Yu. As long as we maintain a good relationship with Qin Yu, the foundation of our Light Lens City will become even more stable. I understand, Aunt. It was not only Duanmu Rufeng. Shunta Yen, Tang Lan, Mu Qin and Putai Hong, these 4 sage emperors were also communicating with their troops via divine awareness voice transmission. However, the people that they were contacting were all palace masters and high-level heavenly deities of their respective sacred grounds. After all, there was no longer a single god king in their sacred grounds. Fan De, your imperial father will need to enter seclusion training for 100 million years. In this 100 million years, the matters of our Flame Mountain will be left to you and your uncles. Fan, you should discuss with your uncles about the matters of the Flame Mountain. Yes, father. Shunta Fan also received his father's divine awareness voice transmission from the Flame Mountain. Shunta Fan didn't know that at this moment, his father was feeling somewhat grateful toward him. If it wasn't for the friendship between Shunta Fan and Qin Yu, how could Shunta Yen possibly only need to stay in the Purple Mystic Mansion for 100 million years? 100 million years versus 6 quadrillion years. The difference between them was close to 60 million times. The 8 great sacred grounds of the divine realm began their unprecedentedly peaceful days. Of the 3 Ascender powers, the Azura Sea, Mount Blood Demon and the Dual Domain Island were also extremely peaceful. They did not cause any battles. That was because regardless of whether it might be the 8 great sacred grounds or the 3 Ascender powers, they all knew one thing. The current core of the divine realm was the Fog City. No one dared to infringe upon the dignity of the Fog City. In the southeastern underground city. What's going on with Imperial Father and Second Uncle? Why aren't they taking care of matters anymore? They even said that they would only show themselves occasionally for the next 6 quadrillion years. They have instead handed the matters of the underground city to us. Putai Fenyan said with a frown. Big brother, the strangest thing is that Imperial Father and Second Uncle are actually not returning to the underground city. A burly man beside him said with a frown. I wonder where Imperial Father and Second Uncle are right now. The divine realm had entered an unprecedented situation of having very few god kings. There were actually only 3 god kings in the 8 great sacred grounds. The Azura Sea only had a single god king. The Mount Blood Demon also only had a single god king. Only the Dual Domain Island had 2. The majority of the god kings in the divine realm, over a dozen god kings, were all in the Purple Mystic Mansion. Compared to before the descent of the exalted Celestial Mountain, when the divine realm had over 40 god kings, the disparity was truly too great. The scarcity of god kings had led to the high-level heavenly deities possessing even greater authority. Gradually, it became even more difficult for heavenly deities to see god kings in the divine realm. The fact that god kings did not show themselves caused them to appear even more mysterious to ordinary heavenly deities. Inside the Purple Mystic Mansion, the dozen or so god kings were all extremely well behaved. Each and every one of them would frequently instruct the Qin clan's disciples in their training. Normally, they would be quietly training, chatting and so on in the flowing water garden. Hee, Those heavenly deities from the 8 great sacred grounds of the divine realm are all confused as to where the god kings have gone to. Haha, all the god kings are here. Ho Fei walked into the flowing water garden. As he saw the god kings in 2s and 3s, he displayed a complacent smile. In the entire divine realm, where else could there be this many god kings? At this moment, Qin Zhang was also in the flowing water garden. Furthermore, he was currently asking a god king, "Senior, the things that you passed to me a few days ago, these things can only be understood and not explained. You should just slowly train, do not bother me." At this moment, that Putai Hong was playing chess with Shun Tuyen. Without waiting for Qin Zhang to finish, he spoke to him in a somewhat impatient manner. "Yes, senior." Seeing Putai Hong acting like this, Qin Zhang stood to the side. He was prepared to wait for Putai Hong to finish his chess game before continuing his questioning. At this moment, Ho Fei, who had just walked into the flowing water garden, saw this scene. Instantly, his eyes widened in anger. In a few steps, Ho Fei walked to Putai Hong's side and fiercely slapped the chessboard with his palm. Bang! The chessboard abruptly shattered. That Putai Hong and Shun Tuyen were both greatly shocked. Putai Hong could not help but raise his head to look at the person who had come. At this moment, Ho Fei directly pointed at Putai Hong's nose and scolded. "You Putai Hong, do you really think that you were invited by my big brother to be a guest? Damn it, just because I gave you some face, you really think that you are who you are?" Ho Fei extended his hand and the dark cyan single aura rod appeared in his hand. Putai Hong and Shun Tuyen immediately retreated. "Ho Fei, what are you doing?" Putai Hong said angrily. "Ho Fei, you should still be more courteous to your seniors." The nearby Qin Zheng advised Ho Fei. When Ho Fei heard that, he was immediately enraged. He glared at Putai Hong and said, "Putai Hong, listen up. You came here as a servant of the Purple Mystic Mansion. As a servant, you must have the consciousness of a servant. My big brother gave you face, but don't think that my big brother is weak. Damn it, I should have killed you guys earlier." Immediately, all the god kings in the flowing water garden quietened down. They also understood that they were the Purple Mystic Mansion servants. However, Qin Yu had told the people from the Purple Mystic Mansion that these god kings were guests invited by Qin Yu. Therefore, Qin Zheng and the others were still very courteous to these people. However, being so courteous caused Putai Hong to gradually have the arrogance of a sage emperor. "Servants." At this moment, Qin Zheng looked at Ho Fei in confusion. Ho Fei's gaze swept across the god kings present. He coldly snorted and said, "My big brother praised you guys and you guys really took it seriously. All of you, remember this well. Big brother gave you guys some face, so you guys must have some self-awareness. Don't think that all of you are still extraordinary sage emperors. Putai Hong, come over and explain to second brother Qin Zheng." Ho Fei coldly stared at Putai Hong. Putai Hong frowned. Mu Qin, who was beside him, cupped his hands towards Ho Fei and said, "Ho Fei, we have indeed been a bit excessive these days. From today onwards, we will definitely not do it again." Putai Hong. Mu Qin looked towards Putai Hong. The god kings present all knew very well that Qin Yu's strength was much stronger than theirs. "Ho Fei, I am sorry. My attitude was a bit excessive." At this moment, Putai Hong also softened his tone. "That's more like it." Ho Fei coldly snorted. "There are very few people in the Purple Mystic Mansion who know that you guys are servants. However, if you guys do not have self-awareness and continue to think that you are infallible, then not only will the people of the Purple Mystic Mansion know, even the people of the Divine Realm will know." The expressions of those god kings all changed. If this matter were to be known by the people of the Divine Realm, then these god kings would likely suffer a fate worse than death. This sort of thing will not happen in the future. Putai Hong immediately said. While Ho Fei was dealing with those god kings, Qin Yu was in the Thunder Punishment City. At this moment, Qin Yu was wearing a blue gown. With a light smile on his face, he was walking on the streets of the Thunder Punishment City. Qin Yu, thank you. There's no need. Actually, I am the one who has let you down by killing the final God King of the Zhou family. I have caused trouble for you, second brother. As Qin Yu walked, he was chatting with Lin Meng via divine awareness voice transmission. If you have killed him, then so be it. It's no big deal. Even if you were to kill all of the 8 great sage emperors, there would still be a successor. Those 8 spiritual pearls all contained the spatial laws. You merely need to give the Thunder Origin spiritual pearls to anyone with the Zhou family's bloodline, and they would be able to comprehend the spatial laws in an extremely short period of time. They would become the new sage emperor of the Thunder Punishment City. In that case, second brother, who do you think I should give the Thunder Origin spiritual pearls to? Qin Yu was chatting with Lin Meng via divine awareness voice transmission. At this moment, they had already arrived before the Thunder Punishment City's Imperial City. Merely, the Imperial City did not permit outsiders to enter. Who should you give it to? Right now, there is a child within 100 steps of you. I think it would be a good idea to give it to him. Lin Meng said via divine awareness voice transmission. Oh. Qin Yu looked to his surroundings. He saw that there was a child curled up on the side of the street not far away. With a single glance, Qin Yu was able to tell that the child's strength was extremely low. He was only a mid-level deity. He should be a disciple of the Zhou family. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a deity to enter the Thunder Punishment City. Qin Yu thought in his heart. With a smile on his face, Qin Yu walked toward the child. When the child who was curled up on the side of the street saw that someone was approaching, he opened his eyes wide and looked to Qin Yu. Why are you curled up on the side of the street? Could it be that you are not afraid of being punished by your parents? Qin Yu said with a smile. Who are you? The child appeared to be more cautious. Don't you know that you should tell others your name before asking for their names? Qin Yu said with interest. The child grew silent for a moment. Then he said, My name is Zhou Qing. Oh, Zhou Qing. In that case, why are you curled up on the ground? Qin Yu asked with a smile on his face. That's because I am about to leave the Thunder Punishment City. Thus, before I leave, I wanted to familiarize myself with the land of the Thunder Punishment City. The answer from the child by the name of Zhou Qing surprised Qin Yu. Why are you leaving the Thunder Punishment City? Qin Yu asked with a smile on his face. I am the disciple with the slowest cultivation speed among my generation in the Zhou family. Thus, I will naturally be banished to the lower regions. Zhou Qing said in a very natural manner. Qin Yu came to a sudden realization. The majority of the 8 great divine families had this sort of rule. However, that was for the sake of promoting the cultivation speed of their disciples and increasing the competition between them. Zhou Qing, you and I are brought together by fate. Thus, I will give you something. Qin Yu said with a smile on his face. Give me something? Zhou Qing looked to Qin Yu with a puzzled expression. Qin Yu flipped his hand and the Thunder Origin spiritual pearl appeared in Qin Yu's palm. With a thought from Qin Yu, Zhou Qing's finger was cut open. A drop of blood flew out from his finger and directly assimilated into the Thunder Origin spiritual pearl. That Thunder Origin spiritual pearl directly assimilated into Zhou Qing's body. Little Zhou Qing, farewell. Qin Yu stroked Zhou Qing's head. Then, he turned around and left. At this moment, Zhou Qing was receiving information from the Thunder Origin spiritual pearl non-stop. At this moment, he was trying his best to open his eyes and look to his surroundings. However, Qin Yu had already disappeared. Zhou Qing said with a loud voice, You still haven't told me who you are. My name is Qin Yu. Qin Yu's voice sounded in Zhou Qing's mind. Chapter 680. Fog City. Inside the Purple Mystic Mansion. Zhang Lan and Yi Feng were currently drinking tea and chatting with smiles on their faces. That Ho Fei is truly tyrannical. The 10+ God Kings were all scared by him and became much more well-behaved. Right now, all of them are extremely humble. Yi Feng said while laughing. The scene of Ho Fei reprimanding the God Kings was something that Yi Feng, Jiang Lan, Zhuo Chulin and the other God Kings of the Purple Mystic Mansion knew about. Merely, none of them stopped Ho Fei from reprimanding them. Jiang Lan nodded. For Ho Fei to reprimand them, it's not necessarily bad. That's right. Yi Feng nodded. Qin Yu is too lazy to bicker with those God Kings. Normally, he would also not demand anything from them. However, these 10-plus God Kings had truly treated the Purple Mystic Mansion as a place for leisure. One by one, the God Kings were playing chess and discussing the Tao in the flowing water garden. Each and every one of them were putting on the airs of seniors and experts. Humph, even if Ho Fei did not reprimand them, I would still go and find Qin Yu to discuss this matter in a couple days. Yi Feng had already disapproved of this matter. After being defeated, Qin Yu spared the lives of those God Kings and made them servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion. However, those God Kings were all putting on airs and putting on airs. Uncle Yi Feng, Uncle Lan, so you're here. Qin Yu's voice sounded. At this moment, Qin Yu had just returned from the Thunder Punishment City. When Jiang Lan and Yi Feng saw Qin Yu, they immediately refilled their teacups and called for Qin Yu to come over. Qin Yu, sit down and drink tea with us. Qin Yu indeed had something that he needed to discuss with Uncle Lan. Thus, he walked over and sat down. Uncle Lan, do you still remember this? After Qin Yu drank a mouthful of tea, he flipped his hand and took out the golden all-people seal that he had seized from the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial. Seeing the little golden seal in Qin Yu's hand, Jiang Lan and Yi Feng's eyes both shined. All-people seal? Jiang Lan's eyes were filled with unconcealable curiosity. Qin Yu directly handed the all-people seal to Jiang Lan. Uncle Lan, you already have the back Earth seal. This all-people seal is also for you. This way, the possibility of you becoming an Empyrean is very high. Become an exalted celestial. Jiang Lan lightly smiled and shook his head. If it was in the past, then I might still want to become an exalted celestial. However, ever since I've been living a peaceful life in the Purple Mystic Mansion, I've been accompanying Qin Shuang and Qin Si, the two children, or chatting with brother Yi Feng and your father. His days were leisurely and comfortable. Now, I no longer have any hope of becoming an Empyrean. Qin Yu was stunned. He didn't want Uncle Lan anymore? Then who should he give the all-people seal to? Brother Jiang Lan, Qin Yu also has good intentions. You should accept it. Yi Feng, who stood to the side, advised. Qin Yu also looked to Jiang Lan with anticipation. Qin Yu had always felt that he owed Jiang Lan a lot. If he was able to help Jiang Lan a bit, Qin Yu would feel a bit more comfortable. Jiang Lan looked to Qin Yu. He then received the all-people seal. He smiled and said, Amen, I am indeed curious about the description of time reversal in this all-people seal. It's also good to comprehend it first. However, the birth of the new exalted celestial is fast approaching. I truly wonder who the new exalted celestial would be. The birth of the new exalted celestial is fast approaching? What do you mean by that? Qin Yu frowned. From these words, Qin Yu sensed another meaning. Uncle Lan, aren't there only two methods to become an exalted celestial? The first is to obtain the 3 parts of the exalted celestial's spiritual treasure. The other is to completely comprehend the temporal laws. If Uncle Lan and that Azura God King Luo Fan are both unable to completely comprehend the temporal laws and are also unable to gather the 3 parts of the exalted celestial's spiritual treasure, then how would the new exalted celestial be born? Qin Yu asked in confusion. According to Qin Yu's understanding, if Jiang Lan and Luo Fan were both unable to comprehend the temporal laws and were also unable to gather the 3 seals, then the birth of the new exalted celestial should be delayed. Ha ha. Qin Yu, could it be that you think that because Luo Fan and I are forever unable to comprehend the temporal laws, that the new exalted celestial would never appear? Jiang Lan looked to Qin Yu with a smile. Qin Yu was slightly startled. Jiang Lan smiled and continued. That is impossible. Just like last time, when the God Kings were unable to determine who the victor was, the exalted celestials secretly acted. The exalted celestial spiritual treasure directly flew to the unfettered God King and allowed him to become an exalted celestial. I think that if Luo Fan and I are unable to comprehend the temporal laws or gather the three parts of the exalted celestial spiritual treasures, then the exalted celestial spiritual treasure would definitely attack again. I fear that the exalted celestials will once again act. Zhonglun said with a light smile. Hearing this, Qin Yu thought in his heart. The exalted celestials act? The authority to determine the new exalted celestial is likely not something that the other exalted celestials possess. I reckon that the final act was also ordered by second brother Lin Meng. Currently, the three parts of the Living World Seal, the Blue Sky Seal, the Back Earth Seal and the All People Seal had all appeared. The birth of the new exalted celestial was imminent. After Zhonglun obtained the All People Seal, he returned to the new cosmos. That was because in the divine realm, even Qin Yu was unable to maintain a space where time was accelerated by 100,000 times. However, in the new cosmos, Qin Yu was able to maintain a space where time was accelerated by 1,000,000 times. The dark curtain of night disappeared. The light of day arrived. It was a new day. Qin Yu and Zhang Li walked out from their room. The two of them began to eat breakfast with their two sons, Qin Si and Qin Shuang. Not to mention those who had reached Qin Yu's level, even ordinary cultivators did not need to eat. Merely, in the eyes of Qin Yu and them, this meal was not something to fill one's stomach. Instead, it was a kind of gourmet enjoyment. Father, Mother, I wish to discuss something with the two of you. Right after Qin Shuang finished eating, he said to Qin Yu and Zhang Li. Qin Yu and Zhang Li glanced at each other. They were curious as to what this little Shuang wanted to do. Qin Yu smiled and said, Little Shuang, if you have something to say, then say it. Qin Shuang took a deep breath and then said, Father, Mother, I know that the Purple Mystic Mansion possesses a channel that leads to the new cosmos. As for the new cosmos, there are many channels that lead to the immortal, devil and demon realm and even the mortal realm. I wish to go to the immortal, devil and demon realm and the mortal realm to play. Go to the immortal, devil and demon realm and the mortal realm to play? Zhang Li frowned. Little Shuang, you currently do not even possess the strength of a deity. It's best that you don't rush to go out and play. When you pass the divine tribulation and become a low-level deity, Mother will allow you to go out and play, said Zhang Li. Qin Shuang's face immediately turned bitter. I need to become a low-level deity. Qin Shuang dragged his voice. Second brother, don't be anxious. It's very easy to become a low-level deity, Qin Si advised. Humph, big brother, you became a high-level heavenly deity not long after you were born. Furthermore, with your current strength, I fear that you would even be able to fight against God Kings. I cannot compare with you, said Qin Shuang in a somewhat vexed manner. After that, he stood up and left. This child, sighed Zhang Li as she shook her head. Qin Yu frowned. Qin Yu knew that Qin Shuang had always had a trace of injustice in his heart. Although Qin Si had also treated him extremely well. Although Qin Si had treated him very well, Qin Shuang's cultivation speed was truly too slow. Little Si, you can leave first. I have something to say to your mother, Qin Yu said with a smile. Yes, father. Qin Si immediately stood up and left. After that, only Qin Yu and Zhang Li remained in the room. Puzzled, Zhang Li looked to Qin Yu. Brother Yu, what's the matter? It's about little Shuang. Did you not sense it? Qin Yu frowned. Little Shuang is our child. You and I are both God Kings. Logically, little Shuang's talent should be comparable to the children of the 8 great divine families, no? Even the children of the 8 great divine families would generally pass the divine tribulation and become low-level deities at the age of 5 or 6. Not long ago, when I went to the Thunder Punishment City, I encountered a child by the name of Zhou Qing. That child was only 11 or 12 years old. He had reached the mid-level deity level. However, he was the weakest among his generation. As for little Shuang, he is now 20 years old. He has not even reached the low-level deity level. Qin Yu shook his head and sighed. Of his 2 sons, his eldest son Qin Si possessed an exceptionally good talent. However, his second son's talent was exceptionally low. Brother Yu, in that case, what do you think we should do? Zhong Li was at her wit's end. Qin Yu muttered to himself for a moment. Then, he shook his head and said, changing one's talent involves the essence of one's soul. Even celestials are unable to do that. Let's wait until my new cosmos is completed. At that time, I reckon that I will have a method. New cosmos completed? Zhong Li's eyes shined. Brother Yu, how long will it take for your new cosmos to complete? Originally, I had thought that the uppermost layer of the new cosmos, the divine realm, would take about 5 or 6 years to complete. However, I now know that the divine realm actually controls the energy of the countless spaces below. Thus, the formation speed is a bit slow. According to my estimation, it will take about 10 years. Qin Yu also had an estimate in his heart. About 10 years to complete? Zhong Li nodded. Then, she looked outside the room and said, Sigh, this little Shuang can only wait for another 10 years. Brother Yu, you will be able to help him in 10 years. Children were the heartache of parents. Qin Shuang felt very uncomfortable because his cultivation speed was extremely slow. Qin Yu and Zhong Li also felt very uncomfortable. Merely, there was nothing that they could do. 10 years. After the new cosmos was completed, Qin Yu's remarkable abilities would increase greatly. Time passed. In the second year since Zhou Qing obtained the Thunder Origin Spiritual Pearl, the signs of the birth of a God King once again appeared in the entire divine realm. Another God King had been born in the divine realm. A God King that could only be considered to be in his youth. The new Thunder Punishment City's Sage Emperor, Zhou Qing, had become one of the few people at the peak of the divine realm's pyramid. After becoming the Thunder Punishment City's Sage Emperor, Zhou Qing became even clearer about the battles that had occurred after the descent of the exalted celestial mountain. Zhou Qing also understood that Qin Yu had returned the Thunder Origin Spiritual Pearl. It was very likely that the original Northwest Sage Emperor, Zhou Xian, had already been killed by Qin Yu. In addition, the previous Thunder Punishment City's God Kings, Zhou Ran, Zhou Wulian, Zhou Tong and Zhou Hua, were all killed by Qin Yu. Zhou Qing gasped in admiration of Qin Yu's strength. However, Zhou Qing did not hate Qin Yu in the slightest. Humph, Zhou Xian? Zhou Hua? Zhou Qing did not have the slightest bit of affection for the God Kings of the past. The Zhou Qing of the past was merely the lowest rung of the Zhou family. He was even nearly exiled from the Thunder Punishment City. In the depths of Zhou Qing's heart, he felt extremely grateful toward Qin Yu, the person who had allowed him to undergo a rebirth and rapidly change his status. Ever since Zhou Qing became a God King, the entire divine realm had once again regained its tranquility. Roughly 3 years after Zhou Qing became a God King. On the streets of the Yuqi city in the eastern region of the divine realm. Yuqi city? The city where Qin Yu made his fortune? A light cyan-gowned, long-bearded old man was walking on the streets of Yuqi city with a smile on his face. This long-bearded old man had a rosy complexion. His skin was sparkling and translucent like that of an infant. He had an amiable smile on his face. His smile would cause the surrounding people to feel a burst of warmth in their hearts. Never would I have expected that Qin Yu would be able to create such a grand scene in merely several tens of thousands of years. Not bad, not bad. The light cyan-gowned, cyan-bearded old man smiled and nodded. With a slight movement of his feet, this cyan-bearded old man left Yuqi city in a couple steps. With a wave of his sleeve, a 7-colored auspicious cloud appeared beneath this cyan-bearded old man's feet. Stepping on the 7-colored auspicious cloud, this cyan-bearded old man's speed was extremely fast. He directly flew toward the foggy marsh. After passing through the foggy marsh, he soon arrived outside of Foggy City. Oh, this Foggy City has guards outside of its gates? The cyan-bearded old man looked to the Foggy City from afar. He shook his head and sighed. The current Foggy City was not a place that anyone could enter as they wished. This cyan-bearded old man's figure suddenly became fuzzy. In the end, he disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already arrived inside the foggy city. The foggy city was currently bustling with activity. Amen. Low-level heavenly deity Yu Xian blinked his eyes in surprise. Earlier, he only felt that his eyes were fuzzy before a cyan-bearded old man appeared before him. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Yu Xian felt puzzled. May I ask if the city master of this foggy city lives in the floating city above? This cyan-bearded old man turned around and asked Yu Xian with a smile on his face. Yu Xian was unable to see through this old man at all. He immediately smiled and said, Senior, our foggy city's city master, Lord Qin Yu, usually lives in the Purple Mystic Mansion. Merely, as I am only a small character, I do not know whether or not he is here right now. Oh, thank you. The cyan-bearded old man smiled and nodded. After that, the cyan-bearded old man raised his head and looked to the Purple Mystic Mansion floating in the sky. Such an enormous mansion, yet it's completely covered in low-level heavenly divine artifacts. Extraordinary, extraordinary. The cyan-bearded old man directly soared into the sky and flew toward the Purple Mystic Mansion. After a short moment, the cyan-bearded old man arrived outside of the Purple Mystic Mansion's entrance. This is the Purple Mystic Mansion. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. That Purple Mystic Mansion's guard immediately shouted. The cyan-bearded old man smiled and shook his head. Have your master Qin Yu come out. At this moment, the housekeeper of the Purple Mystic Mansion, Uncle Fu, also heard the shout of the guard. Upon hearing the words of the person who had come, he was shocked. You want to see Master Qin Yu? Who is it that has come? Uncle Fu directly walked to the entrance. Upon seeing the person who had come, Old master. Uncle Fu was completely stunned. Fu. When the cyan-bearded old man saw Uncle Fu, his eyes shined and his face was filled with joy. Chapter 681. When the cyan-bearded old man arrived before the entrance of the Purple Mystic Mansion, Qin Yu was currently drinking tea, playing chess and chatting with Zhang Li in a pavilion within the Purple Mystic Mansion's inner lake. As for Qin Shuang, he was quietly sitting by himself in a pavilion not far away. That child little Shuang. Zhang Li took a glance at Qin Shuang in the distance and then shook her head helplessly. She then looked to Qin Yu and asked, Brother Yu, when should we go and see little sister Yen Granny Yin Hua and them? It's been a long time since I've seen them. I truly miss little sister Yen and them. Ever since the relationship between Qin Yu and the Floating Snow City had deteriorated, Zhang Li had rarely contacted her relatives in the Floating Snow City. It's not good for us to directly go to the Floating Snow City. How about this? In the future, when there's an opportunity, you two sisters can find a city to gather. Qin Yu thought for a moment and then replied. As he said this, Qin Yu felt a trace of guilt in his heart. Back then, when he participated in the public groom search, he ended up failing and forced Li Er to elope with him. He had become estranged from a large amount of relatives in the Floating Snow City. We'll find an opportunity in the future. Zhang Li also nodded with a smile. Merely, Qin Yu was still able to sense the disappointment in Zhang Li's eyes. Qin Yu felt even more guilty. Zhang Fan. Qin Yu was pondering in his heart. Him going against the Floating Snow City was essentially because his relationship with Zhang Fan had deteriorated. Although he had let Zhang Fan go this time around, although their relationship had improved a bit and they were no longer fighting and killing each other, Zhang Fan had still met Zhang Fan. If Zhang Fan were to see Qin Yu, he would still not pay attention to him. For the sake of Li Er, it's fine for me to give in. Qin Yu thought for a moment and then came to a decision. Right at this moment, Uncle Fu rapidly walked over from the stone path in the distance. His face was filled with a joyous smile. Qin Yu looked to Uncle Fu with a puzzled expression. Once Uncle Fu walked over, he immediately said excitedly and respectfully, Master has come. Old master. Qin Yu was slightly startled upon hearing this. However, after a short moment, Qin Yu reacted. Old master? Wasn't Uncle Fu's old master the legendary craftsman god Che-Ho Yuan? Senior Che-Ho Yuan is here? Qin Yu exclaimed in surprise. At the same time, he consciously spread out the spatial power of the new universe. Qin Yu easily discovered the old man with the green beard outside the inner lake courtyard. That indifferent and elegant temperament, that amiable smile. He is Senior Che-Ho Yuan? Qin Yu was surprised. This was because Qin Yu had discovered a problem. This azure-bearded elder was actually a God-King level expert. According to what Qin Yu knew, Che-Ho Yuan was merely a high-level heavenly deity. When did he become a deity king? Li Fu respectfully said, Master, the old master is right outside. Without your permission, he won't dare to enter. Hurry up and invite him in. No, I'll go and greet him personally. Qin Yu immediately stood up. Brother Yu, Senior Che-Ho Yuan is here? At this moment, Jiang Li also stood up in surprise. If Senior Che-Ho Yuan is here, Brother Yu and I will go and greet him together. Qin Yu nodded. It is indeed Senior Che-Ho Yuan. Earlier, Uncle Fu said that the person outside the courtyard is a God King. Could it be that Senior Che-Ho Yuan has become a God King level expert? Jiang Li was shocked. Becoming a God King? Why are there no signs of becoming a God King? Qin Yu was startled. That's right, becoming a God King. However, why were there no signs of becoming a God King in the divine realm? Every time a sign of becoming a God King appeared in the divine realm, those people would always figure out the identity of the newly born God King. There were simply no signs of Che-Ho Yuan becoming a God King. Li Er, could it be that you've forgotten? I told you that Senior Che-Ho Yuan was quietly refining his spiritual treasure in another cosmic space. When he became a God King, I reckon that he was in another cosmic space of the lower realms. The signs of becoming a God King appeared in another cosmic space of the lower realms. Qin Yu could only guess like this. The truth was exactly as Qin Yu had guessed. Che-Ho Yuan reached the God King level in a space of the mortal realm. At that time, that mortal realm was filled with rumbling thunder and endless auspicious clouds. However, very few people in the divine realm knew about this. Qin Yu and Jiang Li walked side by side along the Bluestone Road. They walked along the winding lake path toward the lakeside. To become a God King in the lower realms, the signs of becoming a God King would only appear in the lower realms. Jiang Li frowned. If this is the case, then for some experts that wanted to become God Kings, once they hide in the lower realms and become God Kings, wouldn't that mean that very few people in the divine realm would be able to detect this? Qin Yu smiled. Li Er, are you stupid? How could it be that easy to go from the divine realm to the lower realms? Even high-level heavenly deities would not be able to go down that easily. Furthermore, before becoming a God King, who would know when they would become a God King? Jiang Li smiled and nodded. Becoming a God King was truly too difficult. Qin Yu and Jiang Li's eldest son, Qin Si, possessed astonishing talent. After he fused with the Fire Origin Spiritual Pearl and that first-rate Grand Mist Spiritual Treasure Golden Spear, he became a high-level heavenly deity in his childhood. However, even now, Qin Si still had not reached the God King level. When they reached the lakeside, Qin Yu saw the cyan-bearded old man standing in front of the courtyard entrance and admiring the flower bed. Qin Yu increased his speed. In merely a couple steps, he had arrived near the old man. His eyes were filled with joy. Qin Yu was about to say something when that cyan-bearded old man who had been sizing up Qin Yu the entire time spoke. You are Qin Yu? This junior is indeed Qin Yu. At this moment, Qin Yu's attitude was extremely humble. Hearing that, a smile appeared on Che-Ho Yuan's face. Qin Yu, there is no need for you to address me as a junior. Although I have only returned to the divine realm for a short period of time, I have come to know about most of your accomplishments from my conversations with the Azura God King Luo Fan. With your current strength and status, it would be sufficient for you to address me as Che-Ho. This junior would never dare to forget senior's great kindness. Qin Yu was extremely stubborn. The bewitching God Temple had provided Qin Yu with a lot of assistance. For example, the divine spear waning snow and the artifact crafting techniques. All of these had greatly increased Qin Yu's strength. Thus, he was able to rapidly establish himself in the divine realm. Brother Yu, Senior Che-Ho Yuan has arrived. You couldn't possibly continue to chat with him at the courtyard entrance, right? Come to our place. Uncle Fu, quickly order people to prepare the best banquet. Zhang Li instructed Uncle Fu with a smile on her face. Yes. At this moment, Uncle Fu had a joyous expression on his face. Now that his old master had arrived, Uncle Fu was also extremely happy. Senior, this way please. Qin Yu allowed Che-Ho Yuan to go first. Let's walk together. Otherwise, no matter how thick-skinned this old man of mine is, I would not be able to endure your hospitality, Che-Ho Yuan said with a smile. Said Che-Ho Yuan with a smile. Qin Yu was also smiling. Zhang Li, Qin Yu and Che-Ho Yuan walked side by side toward Qin Yu's residence. When Qin Yu and the other two were walking on the road and chatting with each other for only a short while. Haha, Qin Yu, I sense that a God King has arrived in this purple mystic mansion. However, I am not familiar with this God King's aura at all. I have seen the majority of the God Kings of the divine realm. This person is? God King Yi Feng walked over with a smile on his face. Qin Yu immediately said with a smile. Uncle Yi Feng, this person is the craftsman god from back then, Che-Ho Yuan. Che-Ho Yuan. God King Yi Feng looked at the cyan-bearded old man in astonishment. Brother Yi Feng, could it be that you do not recognize me? Che-Ho Yuan said with a smile on his face as he winked. God King Yi Feng was startled. Che-Ho, since when did your temperament change so greatly? You are completely different from the past you. Qin Yu was also astonished upon hearing those words. From the sound of it, this God King Yi Feng seemed to be acquainted with Che-Ho Yuan. Furthermore, Che-Ho Yuan had changed greatly compared to the past. Temperament changed greatly? Haha, that's right. Regardless of whether it is you or that brother Luo Fan, none of you were able to recognize me at first glance. Only a Fu was able to recognize me immediately. Che-Ho Yuan said with a smile. A Fu had followed Che-Ho Yuan through the divine realm for who knows how many hundreds of millions of years. Thus, he was able to easily recognize Che-Ho Yuan. Haha, Che-Ho, compared to back then, the current you is still the best. Back then, you had that cold appearance and that unapproachable attitude of yours. The current you is much easier for others to get close to. God King Yi Feng said with a smile. Qin Yu, Che-Ho Yuan, Yi Feng and the others chatted and laughed along the way. Not long after they walked. Why are there so many God Kings here? Che-Ho Yuan suddenly looked to the flowing water garden in astonishment. Che-Ho Yuan was also a God King. Thus, he was able to sense that there were many God Kings in the flowing water garden. Senior Che-Ho Yuan, you didn't know? Brother Luo Fan didn't tell you? Qin Yu said in astonishment. Qin Yu had heard from Che-Ho Yuan earlier that he had already spoken with the Azura God King Luo Fan. Luo Fan had also told Che-Ho Yuan about Qin Yu's past deeds. Qin Yu had thought that this Che-Ho Yuan knew that he had made a group of God Kings into the Purple Mystic Mansion servants. Brother Luo Fan? He didn't say anything. He only said that you had fought several battles. What's wrong? Is this related to the fact that you have so many God Kings here? Che-Ho Yuan had a puzzled expression. Qin Yu, Yi Feng, Zhang Li and the others looked to one another. Then they smiled. Evidently, in the Azura God King Luo Fan's heart, that many God Kings had fallen into the hands of Qin Yu. In the end, the Azura God King was even released by Qin Yu. Over 10 God Kings had become the Purple Mystic Mansion's servants. Likely, Luo Fan felt that this matter was a great scandal and did not tell others about it. Since the Azura God King did not mention it, Qin Yu also did not wish to expose this matter. It's nothing. I merely had over 10 God Kings come to my Purple Mystic Mansion as guests so that they could teach the younger generation. Qin Yu said with a light smile on his face. Have over 10 God Kings teach the younger generation? Che-Ho Yuan was unable to help himself from being dumbstruck. When the Azura God King told him about this matter, he had also mentioned in detail that over 10 God Kings had died in the Divine Realm. Currently, the total number of God Kings in the Divine Realm was only that small. And now, over half of the God Kings had gathered in the Purple Mystic Mansion. This was truly too frightening. Che-Ho, don't think about it anymore. After all, those people were willing to do it. Yifeng said with a smile on his face. Yifeng was also able to tell that Qin Yu did not wish to expose this matter so as to leave some face for those God Kings. Right at this moment, the sound of conversation could be heard from afar. "Ha, big brother Qin Feng, did you see that? How is the attitude of those God Kings towards you now?" "Their attitude is indeed very good. They answered all my questions and even guided my soul to comprehend those concepts. In a short period of time, my soul's realm had increased by a bit. Originally, I did not believe what second brother said. However, after trying it out today, it is indeed true." "That's right. We must make those God Kings remember that they are the servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion. We must also frequently remind them. Only then will they be serious and careful when handling matters. Otherwise, they will put on airs again." Ho Fei and Qin Feng's voices could be heard from afar. Big brother." When Ho Fei saw Qin Yu, he immediately ran over with a smile on his face. When Qin Feng saw Qin Yu, his eyes also shined. "Third brother." Soon after, Qin Feng also ran over. Merely, when he was running over, Qin Feng turned to Ho Fei and asked, "Ho Fei, earlier, you said that they are the servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion. What's going on? Why don't I know about this?" "Fei, you wantonly spread it again." Qin Yu frowned. Ho Fei said with a chuckle, "Big brother, it's fine. I also did not tell many people. In any case, your second brother Qin Zheng already knows about it. Telling big brother Qin Feng now isn't a big deal. Those God Kings are the servants of the Purple Mystic Mansion? What's going on?" Che-Ho Yuan had a dumbstruck appearance. Ho Fei looked at Che-Ho Yuan. He did not recognize Che-Ho Yuan. However, seeing Qin Yu, Zhang Li and Yifeng accompanying him, he should be an honored guest. Immediately, Qin Feng smiled and said, "Oh, those 10 God Kings are the servants of my Purple Mystic Mansion." Che-Ho Yuan turned his head to look at Qin Yu in a daze. "Senior Che-Ho Yuan, it's nothing. It's just that those God Kings were defeated. I spared their lives and allowed them to teach the younger generation in my Purple Mystic Mansion as punishment," Qin Yu said with a faint smile. Che-Ho Yuan was stunned for a good while. Only then did he manage to calm down his chaotic state of mind. In Che-Ho Yuan's heart, Qin Yu's status immediately soared by a large amount. To have more than half of the God Kings of the Divine Realm become servants, just how astonishing was Qin Yu's current strength. Chapter 682. In Qin Yu and Zhang Li's serene and secluded courtyard house, only Qin Yu, Zhang Li, Che-Ho Yuan and Yifeng were sitting down. Only Uncle Fu was standing beside them. As for Ho Fei, Qin Feng and the others, they did not take a seat. After all, Ho Fei and the others did not have much contact with Che-Ho Yuan. It was not good for them to sit here. Ever since I obtained the bewitching God Temple in the immortal, devil and demon realm, I directly ascended to the divine realm. After that, I continued to rise all the way until I became the Misty Mystic Palace's Palace Master of the utmost eastern region's Mount Dazzling Gold. In the end, I participated in the Floating Snow City's public groom search. Now that I think about it, everything seems to have happened yesterday. Qin Yu drank a cup and said with a smile. Zhang Li, who was at the side, also laughed. She also recalled the days she spent with Qin Yu. In just a short 20,000 years, he was able to stand at the peak of the God Realm. Since the birth of the God Realm, no one has ever achieved such an achievement. God King Yifeng said with a smile. Che-Ho, by leaving behind the bewitching God Temple, you are adding fuel to the fire for Qin Yu's legend. Che-Ho Yuan had indeed helped Qin Yu a lot. In the end, Qin Yu had a flash of inspiration in the Tao of array formations, and he created the array formation universe. In the end, he became the new craftsman god. There was also the treasure that Che-Ho Yuan had left for Qin Yu, like the divine spear waning snow. Of course, the reason why the divine spear waning snow was so powerful was because it had absorbed the mysterious yellow qi. Otherwise, the original divine spear waning snow would only possess the might of a second-rate grand mist spiritual treasure. How could it possibly possess a might that surpassed that of a first-rate grand mist spiritual treasure? The path of refining requires talent, time, and the accumulation of experience. In a short 20,000 years, even though he has been training in a region where time is accelerated by 10,000 times, it is still inconceivable, Che-Ho Yuan exclaimed in admiration. Qin Yu humbly replied, in terms of weaponsmithing, there's still quite a large disparity between junior and senior Che-Ho. That's not necessarily true, Yi Feng said with a smile. You're also capable of refining first-rate grand mist spiritual treasures. Furthermore, you're capable of refining more than one first-rate grand mist spiritual treasure. This Che-Ho has only forged a single weapon before. Your weaponsmithing prowess might be higher than Che-Ho. This God King Yi Feng had some friendship with Che-Ho Yuan back then. There was no need for him to hold back too much when speaking with Che-Ho Yuan. Yi Feng Yu. Che-Ho Yuan smiled and shook his head. Had it been back when I had just left the divine realm for the immortal, devil and demon realm, I truly wouldn't dare to say that my ability in artifact crafting was comparable to yours, Qin Yu. But now... Che-Ho Yuan stroked his green beard contentedly. Oh, what's wrong now? Could it be that you've improved greatly and refined an Empyrean spirit treasure? Divine King Yi Feng said with a smile. Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. Back then, in the bewitching God Temple, Qin Yu discovered that Che-Ho Yuan had left behind a message stating that Che-Ho Yuan wanted to pursue the pinnacle of artifact refinement. He would not give up until he had refined an Empyrean spirit treasure. Qin Yu looked at Che-Ho Yuan, who was smiling contentedly. He couldn't help but be secretly alarmed. Che-Ho Yuan's strength has advanced by leaps and bounds. He has reached the God King level. After hearing what Uncle Yi Feng said, Che-Ho Yuan's temperament has also changed greatly. Could it be that Che-Ho Yuan has truly refined an Empyrean spirit treasure? Qin Yu had already witnessed the might of an Empyrean spirit treasure. A single sword strike from the Origin Sin sword had caused Qin Yu to suffer immensely. Che-Ho, that expression of yours, could it be that you've truly refined an Empyrean spirit treasure? God King Yi Feng looked to the current Che-Ho Yuan in astonishment. The current Che-Ho Yuan was stroking his beard and smiling. He had an appearance of contentment. Qin Yu looked to Che-Ho Yuan and said, I remember that Senior Che-Ho had said that he wanted to search for all kinds of materials to pursue the pinnacle of artifact refinement. He would definitely not give up until he had refined an Empyrean spirit treasure. Now that Senior Che-Ho has returned to the divine realm, could it be that he has truly succeeded? Yi Feng and Qin Yu said these words in succession. Zhang Li, who stood to the side, also looked to Che-Ho Yuan in shock. At this moment, Che-Ho Yuan laughed. He turned his gaze to Qin Yu, Zhang Li and Yi Feng. Then, with a low and mysterious voice, he said, This old man has exhausted his soul to the pinnacle. In the end, the heavens have truly not let me down. Ha 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 ha. As he said those words, Che-Ho Yuan started to laugh again. You've truly refined an Empyrean spirit treasure? God King Yi Feng cried out in surprise. Qin Yu and Zhang Li glanced at each other. Disbelief and astonishment were present in their eyes. First-rate Grand Mist spiritual treasures were already extremely difficult to refine. Even for Qin Yu, he would need to reach the pinnacle of all kinds of conditions in order to refine a first-rate Grand Mist spiritual treasure. As for an Empyrean spirit treasure, although Qin Yu had some thoughts about it, he was unwilling to part with the profound yellow energy. I reckon that one must rely on the profound yellow energy to nurture an Empyrean spirit treasure, Qin Yu thought. Qin Yu knew that since he possessed the profound yellow energy, he would be able to increase the quality of the Empyrean spirit treasures he refined. However, what about Che-Ho Yuan? Che-Ho Yuan did not possess the profound yellow energy. Thus, how could he possibly refine an Empyrean spirit treasure? Qin Yu, the Empyrean spirit treasure that I've refined is comparable to the miracle that you've created, right? Che-Ho Yuan said to Qin Yu with a mocking smile. When I think of the dozen-plus God-King servants in your purple mystic mansion, my heart is still trembling. To obtain Che-Ho Yuan's personal confirmation, it would appear that Che-Ho Yuan had truly managed to refine an Empyrean spirit treasure. Empyrean spirit treasure. A God-King had managed to refine an Empyrean spirit treasure. Che-Ho, you really managed to refine an Empyrean spirit treasure? Hoo, come, quickly take it out and broaden our horizons. Truth be told, I have yet to truly see an Empyrean spirit treasure. Of course, the Back Earth Seal and All People Seal are not counted. A few years ago, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial acted against Qin Yu. However, the Origin Sin Sword's movements were too fast. I only managed to catch a glimpse of a sword chi. I didn't even manage to catch a glimpse of the Origin Sin Sword's shadow. What a pity, what a pity. Yi Feng sighed from the side. Qin Yu and Zhang Li also looked at Che-Ho Yuan. Senior Che-Ho, can you let us take a look at your Empyrean spirit treasure? Qin Yu was also filled with anticipation in his heart. He especially wanted to know what an Empyrean spirit treasure that was refined from various materials would look like. Che-Ho Yuan looked at Qin Yu, Yi Feng and Zhang Li. In the end, he smiled and said, "Very well. Since you all wish to see it so much, I will let you all see this treasure that I've spent so much effort on." Che-Ho Yuan flipped his hand. Suddenly, a pitch-black spiritual bead floated above Che-Ho Yuan's palm. This spiritual bead was not large. It was roughly the size of a quail egg. When Qin Yu saw this black spiritual bead, he immediately felt the surrounding space trembling slightly. Qin Yu felt a burst of pressure in his heart. This pressure was caused by this black spiritual bead. As expected of an Empyrean spirit treasure. Qin Yu's heart trembled. Zhang Li and Yi Feng also sensed the extraordinariness of this ordinary-looking black spiritual bead. Che-Ho Yuan's gaze was focused on the black spiritual bead above his palm. His eyes were filled with pride. This Empyrean spirit treasure is something that I have traveled through millions of mortal realms and collected countless peculiar materials. After that, I spent endless effort and even risked my soul to refine this Empyrean spirit treasure, the Fixed Origin Bead. Fixed Origin Bead? Qin Yu and the others all memorized this name. This was the first time an inhabitant of the Divine Realm had refined an Empyrean spirit treasure with their own strength. In the past, the Empyrean spirit treasures were all bestowed by the heavens and earth. No one could refine them by themselves. Senior Che-Ho, earlier, you said that you risked your soul to refine it. What do you mean by that? Qin Yu asked in puzzlement. Che-Ho Yuan smiled. Qin Yu, when you saw the message I left behind in the Bewitching God Temple, do you remember that I once said that I had a feeling that the moment I refined an Empyrean spirit treasure, it would be the moment my soul would be destroyed? Qin Yu nodded. Che-Ho Yuan sighed and said, "What I said was not a groundless statement. Rather, it was a sudden feeling in my heart after I swore to the heavens and earth that I would not give up until I refined an Empyrean spirit treasure. However, that feeling was very vague. Only later on, when I actually refined an Empyrean spirit treasure, did I understand everything." Che-Ho Yuan had a smile on his face. In order to refine an Empyrean spirit treasure, one must fuse their soul with it. At that time, when I was refining it, I only wanted to refine an Empyrean spirit treasure. Even if I were to die, I would not care. Che-Ho Yuan sighed. Qin Yu, Zhang Li and Yi Feng could not help but feel admiration for Che-Ho Yuan's persistence in their hearts. Merely, this fixing origin pearl is truly miraculous. I originally thought that I would undoubtedly die. However, who would have thought that this fixing origin pearl would actually fuse with my soul? I did not die. At the same time, this fixing origin pearl did not undergo any refinement and directly became my weapon. Che-Ho Yuan smiled helplessly and said, I am simply unable to gift this Empyrean spirit treasure to others. That is because my soul is one with this Empyrean spirit treasure. If I were to forcefully make this fixing origin pearl become an ownerless item, my soul would be destroyed on the spot. Qin Yu also nodded his head. Che-Ho Yuan's refining method could not be said to be good or bad. However, I am extremely confident that the might of this fixing origin pearl is too great. It is so great that even if I were to face an Empyrean, I would not fear it in the slightest. Che-Ho Yuan's face was filled with confidence. Qin Yu and the others were shocked. Che-Ho, aren't your words a bit too exaggerated? You are not even afraid of an Empyrean? You must know that an Empyrean also has an Empyrean spirit treasure. Moreover, if he were to use time stop, he would most likely be able to stop you. Yi Feng said with a smile. Che-Ho Yuan smiled faintly and shook his head. No, you all do not understand this fixing origin pearl of mine. Che-Ho Yuan's face was filled with absolute confidence. Qin Yu and the others could not help but listen attentively. The fixing origin pearl's attacking ability is very ordinary. It is smashing. Che-Ho Yuan said with a smile. This fixing origin pearl's speed is extremely fast. No matter what, once it smashes, it would most likely shatter. Smashing? Qin Yu and the others looked at each other speechlessly. Smashing someone with a black pearl, was its might really that great? Yi Feng frowned and said, Che-Ho, I just said that once an Empyrean uses time stop and attacks you with an Empyrean spirit treasure, how would you block it? Didn't you say that you are not afraid of an Empyrean? Che-Ho Yuan smiled and said, This is the second ability of the fixing origin pearl. The fixing origin pearl's attacking ability is to smash. As for its other ability, it is to let people hide inside it. Hide inside? Spatial spirit treasure? Zhang Li said in astonishment. Che-Ho Yuan shook his head and said, It is very similar to a spatial spirit treasure. However, it cannot be considered a spatial spirit treasure. Moreover, the spatial laws cannot be used within the fixing origin pearl. In there is only the starry sky, stars, dark stars and so on. Qin Yu, Zhang Li and the others were all stunned. The interior of the fixing origin pearl was actually a cosmic space? Moreover, the spatial laws cannot be used? Could it be that this is the same as the new cosmos? Qin Yu could not help but be suspicious. Senior Che-Ho, I wonder if there are other spatial laws within the fixing origin pearl? Qin Yu could not help but ask. Other spatial laws? Che-Ho Yuan shook his head in confusion. What do you mean by this? The interior of the fixing origin pearl is merely an extremely large cosmic space. In there, the spatial laws are useless. Naturally, there would not be any other spatial laws. Senior Che-Ho, what methods are there to enter the fixing origin pearl? Qin Yu asked again. Che-Ho Yuan smiled and said, It is simply impossible for others to enter the fixing origin pearl by themselves. Only I am able to enter it through teleportation. As for others, as long as they do not resist, I am also able to bring them in. As for me, I am not afraid of exalted celestials. It is because the exalted celestial's spiritual treasure, the fixing origin pearl, is compatible with my soul. Under time stop, my soul will not stop. I have a feeling that as long as I wish, I will be able to return to the fixing origin pearl. The fixing origin pearl can be considered to be my home, my world. Che-Ho Yuan said with a smile. Qin Yu suddenly had a feeling. Why did this fixing origin pearl of Che-Ho Yuan resemble his new cosmos so much? If one were to speak of differences, then this fixing origin pearl would likely only be a cosmic space. As for the new cosmos, it possessed countless spaces. At the same time, it also possessed the cosmos source energy and so on. Furthermore, it possessed its own spatial laws and temporal laws. Furthermore, the new cosmos was capable of establishing a channel with the divine realm's cosmos. However, The fixing origin pearl was unable to do so. This fixing origin pearl could be considered to be an enormous cosmic space. It is much larger than even the divine realm. With a smash from it, even a first-rate grand mist spiritual treasure would be shattered. Che-Ho Yuan said confidently, "If I were to teleport into the fixing origin pearl and then control the fixing origin pearl to smash others, tell me, who would I fear?" Chapter 683. Of course, this only means that I am not afraid of Empyrean experts. It does not mean that I can defeat Empyreans. After all, Empyreans will not stand there and let me smash them. However, the defense of my fixed elemental pearl should be very strong. Che-Ho Yuan said with a smile. In the end, Che-Ho Yuan said some humble words. Empyrean spiritual treasure, Empyrean spiritual treasure. God King Yi Feng sighed twice and nodded with a smile. Brother Che-Ho, the admiration I have for you right now is indescribable with words. Come, let me toast you. God King Yi Feng smiled and raised his cup. Obtaining an Empyrean spiritual treasure did not mean that one would be able to fight against an Empyrean. After all, whether a weapon was good, it also depended on the strength of the person using the weapon. For example, although Qin Yu possessed the divine spear Waning Snow, if he were to fight against Empyrean thunder punishment head-on, he would not have much hope. After the banquet, Che-Ho Yuan was persuaded by Qin Yu and others to stay in the Purple Mystic Mansion. After all, in the Purple Mystic Mansion, there was a Fu whom Che-Ho Yuan was familiar with. There was also Qin Yu who could be considered his successor. There was also his old friend God King Yi Feng. Moreover, there were also many sage emperors and god kings that he knew in the Flowing Water Garden. After Che-Ho Yuan stayed in the Purple Mystic Mansion for about a year, a major event happened in the Purple Mystic Mansion. I don't know what happened, but Ho Fei actually got married again. Last time, Ho Fei got married to Zi Xia. This time, he got married to Hong Yun. Although Qin Yu knew about the dispute between Ho Fei and Hong Yun, he did not interfere. After fighting for so many years, these two enemies finally got together. Speaking of which, among the three brothers, Qin Yu, Kuro and Ho Fei, only Ho Fei had two wives. Putting aside the hustle and bustle on the wedding day, a very strange thing happened. This Zi Xia and Ho Fei have been husband and wife for many years. However, they are not pregnant. I didn't expect Hong Yun to get pregnant right after she got married to Ho Fei. Not only is Hong Yun pregnant, even Zi Xia is pregnant. This matter is really strange, Kuro said with a smile. At this moment, Qin Yu, Kuro, and Ho Fei were drinking and chatting. Fei, you are really amazing. Qin Yu also smiled and gave him a thumbs up. Ho Fei didn't blush. Instead, he smiled proudly. It's just so. Big brother already has 2 children. It's nothing for me to have 2. After that, the mixed hairbird even had grandchildren. That's right, big brother, mixed hairbird. I estimate that my 2 children will be born in 8 to 9 months. Tell me, what should I name my 2 children? Name? Let me think. Kuro immediately began to think. At this moment, Qin Yu suddenly frowned. That was because Qin Yu suddenly sensed that Uncle Lan had actually come out from the new cosmos. Coming out from the new cosmos was one thing. However, Uncle Lan did not return to the Purple Mystic Mansion and instead went to another place. Uncle Lan has only obtained the All-People Seal for a short period of time. He should be in seclusion training to comprehend it. How did he come out from the new cosmos so quickly? Qin Yu was puzzled. Everything that happened in the new cosmos could not escape Qin Yu's detection. Thus, when Jiang Lan came out, Qin Yu naturally knew about it. I've thought of it. The male will be called Ho-In. The female will be called Ho-In. Kuro's voice sounded. Qin Yu stopped thinking about Jiang Lan. Uncle Lan naturally had the freedom to do whatever he wanted. Qin Yu would also not ask about it. Kuro, to be honest, the names you gave are truly vulgar. Qin Yu smiled and began to join the discussion of the names of the three brothers' future children. Asterisk 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 utmost northern regions floating snow city. This was a black city that was bathed in an endless amount of snow. However, it contained a trace of poignant romance. The heavenly deities of the floating snow city were still the same as before. The successive god-king battles did not affect the heavenly deities much. Inside the Sage Emperor's palace of the floating snow city, the wife of the utmost North Sage Emperor Zhang Fan, Chunyu Ro, stood outside the study room and pondered for a long time. Only then did she lightly knock on the door. Her husband Zhang Fan was in the study room. Ever since Zhang Fan returned to the floating snow city 4 years ago, he had stayed in the study room by himself. Normally, he would not speak much. Even his son and daughter were unable to see him. In the entire floating snow city, only Chunyu Ro was able to speak with Zhang Fan. Creak. The wooden door opened. Sunlight shone through the open door into the study room. However, the inside of the study room seemed to be a forbidden area for sunlight. The entire study room was enveloped by a layer of gloomy and cold oppression. That Zhang Lan's figure was also hidden within the darkness. Chunyu Ro sighed in her heart. However, she displayed a smile on her face. She directly walked into the study room. Right after she entered, the door to the study room closed. Husband, there is no need for you to lament yourself every day. Actually, compared to other places, our floating snow city is already a lot better. I've heard that most of the god kings in other cities have died. In fact, those cities do not even have a single god king. Our floating snow city is truly very good. Chunyu Ro said with a smile. Zhang Fan, who had been silent for a long time, heard what his wife said and displayed a smile on his face. My wife, you only know how to make me feel better. What you said is correct. Compared to other cities, our floating snow city could indeed be considered to be fortunate. I could also be considered to be the tall man among a group of dwarves. Zhang Fan said with a self-mocking smile. Chunyu Ro was secretly delighted. After these days, she had come to chat and joke with Zhang Fan unceasingly. The current Zhang Fan was no longer as silent and autistic as he was when he first returned. My wife. Zhang Fan raised his head and looked to Chunyu Ro. Say, did I make a mistake back then? Back then, for Li Er's husband, I chose Zhou Xian. Was I wrong? Zhang Fan's heart was no longer firm enough. Husband, you've already made your decision. Even if you regret it, it would be useless. Why must you continue to live in the pain of regret? After all, husband, you're still the utmost North Sage Emperor. There's nothing for you to lose. Chunyu Ro consoled. Zhang Fan nodded. Sigh, merely, I've always felt a bit unreconciled in my heart. Zhang Fan recalled how the all-people seal that could be considered as his possession ended up being obtained by Qin Yu. He felt a sharp pain in his heart. He had dreamt of becoming an exalted celestial for so many years. In order to become an exalted celestial, Zhang Fan was willing to give up a lot. He even did not hesitate to fall out with his own brother and break apart the relationship between him and his daughter. All of this was for the sake of becoming an exalted celestial. When one had paid a lot and expected a lot, it would also be very painful when one failed. Originally, I had thought that there would definitely be no accidents if the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial were to act. I was filled with confidence. However, I didn't expect that Qin Yu would act in the end. Sigh, the higher one's expectation is, the more miserable one will fall when one fails. When he thought of this matter, Zhang Fan felt a twitching pain in his heart. It was truly painful. Husband, if you cannot become an exalted celestial, then you cannot become an exalted celestial. That Qin Yu could be said to have held some sort of affection for you. In the future, as long as we do not go and provoke him, I reckon he would also not come and provoke us. Chunyu Ro consoled. Zhang Fan smiled bitterly. The grand utmost North Sage Emperor, how grand was his status? Never would he have expected that he would fall to the point where he needed Qin Yu's pity in order to live comfortably. Wife, when I appeared in the divine realm, I managed to comprehend the spatial laws faster than my second brother Zhonglan and thus became the utmost North Sage Emperor. I have been that utmost North Sage Emperor for a total of 102 quadrillion years now. Zhang Fan laughed at himself. Wife, do you know what I have been thinking about in the depths of my heart all these years? What? Chunyu Ro frowned. According to what she knew, what this husband of hers wanted the most was to become an exalted celestial. Chunyu Ro already knew about this. She did not know why this utmost North Sage Emperor Zhang Fan would ask about it. You ought to know that in these countless years, I have wanted to become an exalted celestial. However, what I wanted to know in the depths of my heart was who my parents were. Where exactly did I come from? Zhang Fan shook his head and sighed. Chunyu Ro looked to Zhang Fan in a daze. Zhang Fan took a deep breath. 102 quadrillion years ago, when the divine realm was born, my second brother, third brother and I appeared in the divine realm. Merely, at that time, none of us possessed the memories of our childhood. All we knew was that we were blood brothers. We did not know anything else. For 102 quadrillion years, I have been thinking the entire time. Who are my parents? Exactly how was I born? Could it be that I was born by the world? Back then, I had been thinking the entire time about how to find out about my origins. Later on, I thought about becoming an exalted celestial. Exalted celestials are much more powerful than god kings. Thus, they ought to know more. I reckon that after becoming an exalted celestial, I would be able to know where I, the first generation of our 8 great divine families, came from. Zhang Fan laughed at himself. Chunyu Ro was also confused. Of the first generation of the 8 great divine families, other than the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial who possessed an even higher seniority in the Thunder Punishment City, the other first generation of the 8 great divine families all seemed to be born out of thin air. Zhang Fan, Zhang Lan, Huang Fuyu, Huang Fu Lei, Huang Fu Liuxiang, Shen Tian, Shen Tuyin, a large group of first-generation disciples of the 8 great divine families. Who exactly were their parents? Could it be that they were born out of thin air? Or perhaps they were born by the world? This question was a publicly accepted riddle of the upper echelons of the divine realm. No one knew how the first generation of the 8 great divine families were born. This question was something that could not be investigated. Husband, didn't you communicate with the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial before? Could it be that you cannot ask him? Chunyu Ro asked in confusion. Zhang Fan laughed at himself. Humph, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial? How could he possibly tell us? I had once tried to ask him. However, he merely reprimanded me and even ordered me to not ask him about it again. I have a feeling that he knows about our origins. However, he refused to tell us. Thus, I truly wish to become an exalted celestial. Chunyu Ro nodded her head. Suddenly, why have you come here? Zhang Fan suddenly frowned. He looked to this person who had suddenly appeared in the study room. The person who had come was wearing a blue gown. It was precisely Zhang Lan. Zhang Lan looked to Zhang Fan. His gaze was tranquil. Big brother. Zhang Fan was startled. You called me big brother. Zhang Fan was truly shocked. Ever since he had chosen Zhou Xian as his husband, this Zhang Lan could be considered to have broken off all relations with him. It was practically impossible for him to call him big brother. At this moment, Chunyu Ro, who stood to the side, was also filled with shock. Zhang Lan lightly smiled as he looked to Zhang Fan. Big brother, we are after all, brothers that have grown up since childhood and have been together for 100 quadrillion years. Although I harbor resentment toward you, now that little you and Lier are together, I believe that there is no need for us to continue to oppose each other like this. There is also no need for you all to continue to be in a deadlock with little you and Lier. A layer of coldness covered Zhang Fan's face. Oh, you've come to persuade me? Zhang Fan smiled coldly. Second brother, I am unable to take back the words that I had said back then. Back then, in front of all those god kings, I had publicly announced that Zhou Xian was my son-in-law. No matter what, I am unable to face Qin Yu now. There is no need for you to continue saying this. Why are you this stubborn? Zhang Lan was a bit angry. Zhang Fan frowned. He looked to his second brother Zhang Lan. Zhang Lan stared at Zhang Fan. Big brother, Li Er has been unable to return to her home all these years. She is unable to meet with her sisters, her brothers, her relatives and friends. Do you know how painful it is for her? Could it be that your daughter cannot even match up to your face? Zhang Fan was startled. He became speechless. Zhang Lan frowned. With a flip of his hand, 2 seals appeared in his hand. One was a gray-colored seal whereas the other was a golden-colored seal. These are... Zhang Fan's eyes immediately shined. These are the Back Earth seal and the All People seal. I know that you want them very much. I am able to give them to you right now. I merely wish that you would be able to treat Li Er and them a bit better and stop opposing each other. With a flip of his hand, the Back Earth seal and All People seal flew into Zhang Fan's hand. Zhang Fan looked at this scene in a daze. Chunyu Ro beside him was also shocked. How could Zhang Fan not know how precious the Back Earth seal and All People seal were? For the sake of these 2 seals, countless god kings had died. Yet now, Zhang Lan had actually delivered these 2 seals to them. Second brother, you. Zhang Fan was a bit speechless. After receiving these, your wish is satisfied. I wish that you would stop opposing Li Er, little you and them. Zhang Lan looked to Zhang Fan. Zhang Fan took a deep breath. He looked to Zhang Fan. Second brother, could it be that you've forgotten that it was I who stopped you from saving Zhuqiumei? Could it be that you do not resent me? You're even willing to give me the hope of becoming an exalted celestial? The shock that Zhang Lan had given the Back Earth seal and All People seal to Zhang Fan was enormous. Resent? Of course I do. Zhang Lan smiled indifferently. Merely, big brother, you must understand. The dead are already dead. To make the living happier is the most important thing. I merely wish for Li Er and them to be happier. As their elder, I am already extremely happy. Zhang Fan's expression changed. Madam, tomorrow, bring Yen Jun and them to the Fog City and visit Li Er and them for me. Zhang Fan suddenly said to Chunyu Ro beside him. Chapter 684. On that day, Zhang Lan returned to the Purple Mystic Mansion. After he returned to the Purple Mystic Mansion, Zhang Lan happily chatted with Che-Ho Yuan for half a day. Zhang Lan and Che-Ho Yuan had become old acquaintances. The next day, Qin Yu was currently chatting with Ho Fei, Kuro, Li Er, Zi Xia, Hong Yun, Bai Ling and the rest. At the moment when they were chatting happily, a heavenly god's maid ran over. Master, there's a group of people outside. They say that they're from the floating snow city. The heavenly god's maid's words caused Qin Yu and them to grow quiet. Floating snow city? Qin Yu frowned. Ho Fei, Kuro and them also looked to each other in bewilderment. As for Li Er, she was the first to stand up. Her face was filled with excitement. People from the floating snow city. Brother Yu, quickly. Zhang Li excitedly pulled Qin Yu and rushed toward the entrance of the Purple Mystic Mansion. Zhang Li, who was extremely anxious, brought Qin Yu with her and teleported to the front courtyard of the Purple Mystic Mansion. Zhang Yan and that Chunyu Ro. Qin Yu spread out his new cosmos's spatial energy. In an instant, he had clearly observed the group of people from the floating snow city. This group of people were practically all from the Zhang clan. They were all people who possessed extremely deep feelings for Zhang Li. Qin Yu grew confused. Zhang Fan's character was something that Qin Yu was able to sense from their years of interaction. This Zhang Fan was not someone who would easily admit defeat. Furthermore, the conflict between him and Qin Yu was truly not small. As a sage emperor, this Zhang Fan ought to be someone who cares about his face. Logically, he ought to not allow these people from the floating snow city to come over. Why is that? As Qin Yu was pondering, Zhang Li, who stood beside him, immediately shouted. Brother Yu, quickly come over. Don't just stand there. My mother, you know her, right? Qin Yu separated himself from his thoughts. He immediately smiled and slightly bowed. I pay my respects to Lady Mother-in-law. Qin Yu thought in his heart. Regardless of what this Zhang Fan is thinking, he has at the very least done a great deed. Zhang Li had been thinking about her relatives and friends the entire time. Qin Yu had been feeling of guilt the entire time. And now his heart was feeling at ease. Qin Yu, hello. When Chunyu Ro saw Qin Yu saw him. She also felt heavenly gods' heavens. Back then, she had tried every possible means to make Zhou Xian her son-in-law. What was the outcome? The 4 great god kings of the Thunder Punishment City, including Zhou Xian who had become a god king later on, were all killed. And now, a youngster of the younger generation by the name of Zhou Qing had become the Thunder Punishment City's sage emperor. Qin Yu's heavenses was. Qin's the statuses now. Qin's emperors was now. Perhaps only the 3 great exalted celestials would be able to suppress Qin Yu. Big brother Qin Yu, you should know most of these people, right? This is my and big sister Li Er's older brother, Jiang Jun. This is also my and big sister Li Er's older brother. His name is... At this moment, Jiang Yan was extremely lively. She was unceasingly introducing people to Qin Yu. Among the people that came, Qin Yu knew most of them. After all, Qin Yu had stayed in the floating snow city for a relatively long period of time. Even for people that he did not know, Jiang Li had also chatted with Qin Yu in the past. Now that Jiang Yan introduced them, Qin Yu immediately recognized them. The arrival of the people from the floating snow city had caused the entire Purple Mystic Mansion to become lively. However, in the entire Purple Mystic Mansion, the happiest person would likely be Jiang Li. As for Qin Yu, he had a question in his heart the entire time. Qin Yu walked to Jiang Lan's residence by himself. Yesterday, Jiang Lan had chatted with that Che Ho Yuan for a long time. Today, he had been resting the entire time. Even when the people from the Fog City came, he merely greeted them at the beginning. Later on, he returned to his residence. Uncle Lan, it's me. After walking to the entrance of the courtyard, Qin Yu said, Little Yu, come in. Jiang Lan's voice sounded from the courtyard. At the same time, the entrance to the courtyard opened by itself. Qin Yu walked into the courtyard. At this moment, Jiang Lan was sitting by himself under an ancient tree and drinking wine. When he saw Qin Yu walk in, he smiled and said, Come, drink with me. Qin Yu smiled and sat down. He accompanied Jiang Lan and chatted casually. Then, he drank several cups of wine in succession. Uncle Lan, I have a matter that I wish to ask you. Qin Yu placed down his wine cup and asked Jiang Lan. Jiang Lan nodded with a smile. Seeing your expression when you came, I knew that you had something in your heart. Go ahead, what is it? Qin Yu slightly nodded. He said, Uncle Lan, the temporal law contained within the All-People Seal is extremely profound. You've only trained in the new cosmos for 4 years. Even if time was accelerated by 1,000,000 times, it would merely be 4 million years. 4 million years, to comprehend the temporal law, is far from enough. And now, Uncle Lan, you've come out. Could it be that you've already succeeded? Oh. Jiang Lan smiled. Little Yu, according to what you said, if I am unable to comprehend the temporal law, then I cannot come out? No. Qin Yu promptly said. Uncle Lan, you know that is not what I meant. Seeing Qin Yu's appearance, Jiang Lan smiled. Enough, I was merely joking with you. I know what you mean. That's right, to only train for such a short period of time, it is indeed a bit short. In terms of the temporal law, my progress is also not that great. Uncle Lan, I wish to know, did the arrival of the people from the floating snow city have anything to do with you? It was you who went to the floating snow city to persuade them, right? Qin Yu asked. Jiang Lan looked to Qin Yu. He did not say anything. I was able to guess it. Uncle Lan, right after you came out from the new cosmos, you went to the floating snow city. On the second day, this group of people from the floating snow city arrived. Thus, I had no choice but to think of you. Qin Yu smiled and said, Uncle Lon, you've done a great deed. However, I am very confused. Uncle Lon, how did you manage to persuade that father-in-law of mine? Moving him with emotion and reasoning. Zhang Lan said casually. He then drank a cup of wine. Moving him with emotion and reasoning? That simple? Qin Yu did not believe it at all. How could Qin Yu not know about that Zhang Lan's temperament? For the sake of obtaining the opportunity to become an exalted celestial, he did not even care about his daughter and did not hesitate to sever his relationship with his own brother. How could such a decisive person be so easily persuaded? Uncle Lon, you'd best not deceive me. Qin Yu stared at Zhang Lan. After being stared at for a long time, Zhang Lan smiled and shook his head. Well then, child, I'll tell you. Actually, it's not that big of a deal. I merely gave the back earth seal and all people seal to Zhang Lan. That big brother of mine had been looking forward to the back earth seal and all people seal for who knows how long. When I gave them to him at once, he would naturally be extremely grateful. Thus, it was only natural for him to do this. Qin Yu was startled. Uncle Lon, you said that you gave the back earth seal and all people seal to Zhang Lan? At this moment, Qin Yu did not even address Zhang Lan as father-in-law. Qin Yu had guessed that Uncle Lon must have paid some price in order to persuade him. However, never had he expected that it was actually these two incomplete exalted celestials' spiritual treasures that contained the opportunity to become an exalted celestial. Uncle Lon, if you were to possess these back earth seal and all people seal, then you might be able to become an exalted celestial. You possess two of them. Thus, the possibility of you becoming an exalted celestial is much greater than that Luo Fan. How could you? Qin Yu felt unreconciled. Zhang Lan smiled indifferently and said, They're merely the back earth seal and all people seal. They are not very useful to me. I also do not have any desire to become an exalted celestial. It does not matter to me whether or not I become an exalted celestial. Uncle Lon. Qin Yu frowned. Little Yu, oh that's right. That all people seal was given to me by you. You wouldn't be angry that I gave it to someone else, right? Zhang Lan said to Qin Yu with a smile. At this moment, Qin Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This Zhang Fan. Qin Yu was unable to refrain himself from feeling resentment. He was furious. Back then, this Zhang Fan, for the sake of that bit of opportunity to become an exalted celestial, disregarded his brotherly relationship with Uncle Lon, disregarded his father-daughter relationship with Lier, and even disregarded the enormous advantage that I possessed in the groom search and insisted on making that Zhou Hua his son-in-law. A while ago, he had repeatedly targeted me. He had even ruthlessly attacked me. At that time, when those god kings and sage emperors were trapped in the new cosmos, his life and death were under my control. However, in the end, for the sake of Lier, I still let him go. Originally, I had thought that he would at least care about that affection. However, who would have thought that when Uncle Lon went to persuade him, he actually refused. He only agreed after Uncle Lon gave him the back earth seal and all people seal. This sort of person. Qin Yu had already started to look down on this Zhang Fan from the bottom of his heart. Originally, he had at least recognized him as his father-in-law. However now, Qin Yu did not wish to recognize him at all. All people seal, back earth seal, didn't he feel that his hands were hot from accepting them? Uncle Lon, did he ever refuse them? Qin Yu looked to Uncle Lon. Uncle Lon was slightly startled. Back then, Zhang Fan had indeed accepted the all people seal and the back earth seal without refusing them. Well then, little Yu, Zhang Fan truly wanted to become an exalted celestial. After obtaining the all people seal and the back earth seal, he naturally would not be willing to give them up. It's nothing much. After all, I also do not wish to become an exalted celestial. It's nothing much to have that big brother of mine fulfill his wish. Zhang Lan said with a light smile. Zhang Lan's attitude was extremely good. He did not mind at all. Become an exalted celestial? Qin Yu started to laugh. Become an exalted celestial? Uncle Lon, even if he were to obtain the All-People seal and the Back Earth seal, he would still not be able to become an exalted celestial. This is fate. He does not have that fate. Zhang Lan was stunned by Qin Yu's tone. Qin Yu's tone contained absolute confidence. Little Yu, are you that certain? Zhang Lan was confused. Qin Yu lightly smiled. He recalled the words that he had said to his second brother Lin Meng. During the 100 days of Little C's birth, Lin Meng had said that none of the God Kings on the exalted celestial mountain would be able to become an exalted celestial. At that time, the utmost North Sage Emperor Zhong Fan was on the exalted celestial mountain. Uncle Lon, you'll know when the new exalted celestial is born. Zhong Fan, he will not be able to become an exalted celestial. Qin Yu said indifferently. Merely, the current Zhong Fan was carrying an endless amount of expectations. He was currently earnestly comprehending the temporal laws through the Back Earth seal and All-People seal. Time passed. In a blink of an eye, close to 8 months had passed. Inside the Purple Mystic Mansion. At this moment, a large group of people were gathered outside of Ho Fei's courtyard house. Over 1,000 people from the Purple Mystic Mansion were all discussing with each other in low voices. Inside the courtyard house was Ho Fei, Qin Yu and them. Today, Ho Fei's 2 wives, Zi Xia and Hong Yun, were actually going to give birth at the same time. At this moment, Ho Fei was anxiously pacing back and forth in front of the house. His 2 fists were tightly clenched. Occasionally, a red light would flicker in his eyes. The energy in his entire body was slightly trembling. Fei, sit down. Don't worry too much. Qin Yu said. Ho Fei glared at Qin Yu. Am I able to sit down? Immediately, the group of people in the courtyard house all started laughing. Merely, they all consciously lowered their voices. They feared that they would disturb the 2 women who were about to become mothers. Amen. Qin Yu frowned. Whoosh. Qin Yu disappeared from the courtyard house. In the surrounding, Kuro, Zhang Li, Yi Feng, Che Ho Yuan and them were all surprised. At this moment, Qin Yu appeared on a path in the Purple Mystic Mansion. In front of this path, a purple-robed middle-aged man was walking over. His figure was somewhat thin. However, he appeared to be proud and aloof. Occasionally, a red light flashed in his eyes as he swept his gaze over Qin Yu. Senior Unfettered Exalted Celestial has graced us with his presence. This junior is unable to contain his joy. However, I wonder what Senior has come here for? Qin Yu slightly cupped his hands and said. The person who had come was the Unfettered Exalted Celestial. At this moment, Qin Yu already had a feeling in his heart. The reason why the Unfettered Exalted Celestial had come here was most likely related to Ho Fei. In the sky above the Divine Realm, in an extremely high space. This space was completely isolated from the rest of the Divine Realm. The other Divine Kings were simply unable to discover this place. In this independent space in the sky above the Divine Realm, various colored auspicious clouds were floating. In the depths of the clouds, there was a palace. At this moment, a person was standing outside of the palace. His hawk-like eyes were looking downwards. This person was the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial who had a grudge with Qin Yu. Humph, junior brother has finally gone to see his precious son. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial sneered. However, it will be soon. 5 years, there are still 5 years left. 5 years later, the new Exalted Celestial will be decided. After that, I will be able to kill Qin Yu without any scruples. Qin Yu, I will allow you to live for another 5 years. A cold light flashed in the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial's eyes. Chapter 685. At this moment, the Purple Mystic Mansion was bustling with noise and excitement. Outside of Ho Fei's courtyard, there were layers upon layers of people surrounding the courtyard. Men, women, old and young were all happily chatting with each other. Move aside. Its utmost supreme third elder, move aside. Seeing Qin Yu bringing a middle-aged man over, the over 1,000 people gathered outside the courtyard consciously opened up a path for the three of them. Qin Yu brought the unfettered exalted celestial and walked into the courtyard with a smile on his face. Right after Qin Yu and the unfettered exalted celestial entered the courtyard, Kuro, Cheho Yuan, Zhonglan and the rest who were in the courtyard looked over in confusion. Wah! Two resounding cries of infants sounded in succession. Everyone present displayed joyous expressions. Qin Yu took a glance at the unfettered exalted celestial beside him. Even though the unfettered exalted celestial was extremely calm, the current unfettered exalted celestial's eyes were filled with excitement. His gaze was completely fixed on Ho Fei, who stood outside the courtyard. Creak! Once the door opened, Ho Fei directly rushed in. As for Qin Yu, Kuro, Zhonglan and many others, they were chatting and laughing outside. Truly rare. Never would I have expected that Ho Fei's two children would be born one after the other. Kuro gasped in admiration. And at this moment, Zhonglan's gaze was on the unfettered exalted celestial. His expression slightly changed. Little Yu, may I know who this is? Although Zhonglan asked, he managed to guess who it was from his expression. 6 quadrillion years ago, the unfettered God King had participated in the first descent of the exalted celestial mountain. In the end, he became an exalted celestial. At that time, Zhonglan had naturally come to know this unfettered God King. Merely, compared to back then, the current unfettered exalted celestial's appearance had changed slightly. Most importantly, his temperament was also different from back then. Zhonglan, we have not met for 6 quadrillion years. You actually don't recognize me anymore. The unfettered exalted celestial said with a light smile. At this time, Qin Yu very consciously waved his hand and closed the door of the courtyard. It was best not to let those juniors outside know about the unfettered exalted celestial's identity. Otherwise, who knew how noisy it would be? Uncle Lan, this is Senior Unfettered Exalted Celestial, Qin Yu said from the side. Unfettered Exalted Celestial? Kuro, Bai Ling, Zhuoqiulin, and the others were all shocked. One had to know that heavenly venerables were elusive. Even for the thunder punishment exalted celestial, many people were only able to see him through the water screen. In the entire God realm, there weren't many people who had the fortune to be able to talk to a heavenly venerable directly. What is unfettered exalted celestial doing here? At this moment, Zhonglan was confused. However, on the surface, Zhonglan still bowed respectfully. Never would I have expected for it to be Senior Unfettered Exalted Celestial. Senior, please sit here. The group of people who were originally sitting had already stood up. Who would be so thick-skinned as to dare to sit when the celestial venerable was standing? The unfettered exalted celestial displayed a smile on his face. With a light smile on his face, he waved his hand and said, Zhonglan, there is no need for you to be so courteous. The reason why I have come today is because, haha, big brother, I have a son and a daughter. Quickly, come and see. Ho Fei's voice suddenly sounded through the entire courtyard. Everyone looked toward the entrance of the house. Ho Fei rushed out with a baby in each hand. He was so excited that his eyes were flickering with a red light. A boy and a girl? Kuro was the first to rush over. Immediately, Zhang Li, Bai Ling and a large group of people all rushed over. Seeing the two babies, they were all extremely happy. Everyone in the courtyard displayed joyous smiles on their faces. This unfettered exalted celestial has likely come because of the birth of Li Er's two children. Qin Yu thought in his heart. He looked to the unfettered exalted celestial beside him. At this moment, the excitement of the unfettered exalted celestial was something that, not to mention Qin Yu, even Qin Yu's youngest son, Qin Shuang, was able to tell. The unfettered exalted celestial's gaze moved over the two babies. His eyes were filled with excitement. However, the unfettered exalted celestial restrained himself and did not rush over. Big brother. Ho Fei raised his head and looked over. Seeing that Qin Yu did not go over, he could not help but frown. Big brother, why are you standing so far away? Come, come quickly. Take a look at these two babies. Ha! Ho Fei's gaze merely swept past the unfettered exalted celestial. Although he was surprised to see this person whom he had never seen before, Ho Fei did not mind. Hong Yun and Zi Xia walked out from the house. As Empyrean deity experts, giving birth did not affect their bodies too much. Scarlet Cloud directly called out, "Monkey, give me Xinger." Ho Xing. That name doesn't sound good. My dear wife, why call such a cute daughter Ho Xing? Listen to me and call her Ho Tian Tian. Tian Tian, isn't that great? Ho Fei immediately said. PFF. Immediately, everyone started laughing. Qin Yu and Kuro also felt helpless. Before the birth of the child, they had already discussed it. No matter how many names they came up with, Ho Fei did not want them. In the end, they even shamelessly came up with Ho Tian Tian. Might it be possible for me to give this child a name? The unfettered exalted celestial who had been in a state of excitement the entire time finally gathered his courage and said these words. Ho Fei's eyelids jumped. He took a glance at this unfettered exalted celestial. Who are you? Why are you naming my child? The unfettered exalted celestial was startled. As for the large group of people in the courtyard, they were all startled. Everyone knew that the person who had come was the unfettered exalted celestial. However, Ho Fei actually spoke to the unfettered exalted celestial in such a manner. This was outrageous. Fei, this is Senior Unfettered Exalted Celestial. Do not be rude. Zhonglan immediately shouted. Unfettered Exalted Celestial? Ho Fei's heart jumped. Heavens, he had poked a hornet's nest. Ho Fei immediately bowed in a well-behaved manner. Junior pays his respects to Senior Unfettered Exalted Celestial. Merely, this child is my child. As her father, it is fine for me to name her. There is no need for Senior to trouble himself. There's a good show to watch. Qin Yu remained silent. Qin Yu was able to guess that Ho Fei was an orphan that Zhonglan had discovered. And now, this unfettered exalted celestial might be related to Ho Fei's origin. The unfettered exalted celestial's lips did not move. Instead, he said via divine awareness voice transmission. Ho Fei, I am your father. Boom. Ho Fei felt as if the inside of his head had exploded. His mind went blank. Only after a long while did he regain his senses. He was completely frightened. At this moment, the excitement of obtaining his son and daughter had completely disappeared. Instead, he was shocked. Ho Fei looked to the unfettered exalted celestial with a sharp gaze. The unfettered exalted celestial looked to Ho Fei with an expectant gaze. His gaze was very amiable. He was looking forward to the moment when Ho Fei would call him father. Ha ha. Ho Fei suddenly started laughing. He handed the two children in his hands to Zi Xia and Hong Yun respectively. Then, he pointed to the unfettered exalted celestial and said with an expression of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Senior Unfettered Exalted Celestial, you said you're my father? Ha ha, don't joke around. I, Ho Fei, am an orphan. Although I would occasionally think of my parents, I have not fallen to the point where I would recognize someone as my father just because someone randomly came to tell me that he's my father. The entire courtyard was silent. Father. Practically everyone was frightened by Ho Fei's words. Earlier, that unfettered exalted celestial had likely only sent a divine awareness voice transmission out of fear of being affected. And now, Ho Fei had said it out loud. This had truly frightened everyone. This unfettered exalted celestial is Ho Fei's father? Qin Yu was not too surprised in his heart. Monkey, don't talk nonsense here. This is not a joke. Kuro immediately reminded from the side. The corners of Ho Fei's mouth curled up. He glanced at the unfettered exalted celestial and said, Mixed hair bird, I'm not joking. It's this senior unfettered exalted celestial who is joking with me. At this moment, although Ho Fei was smiling, his gaze was very strange. The unfettered exalted celestial frowned slightly. He said, Ho Fei, I wonder if we can have a private talk? The unfettered exalted celestial did not wish for his family matters to be known by the surrounding group of people. After all, he was an exalted celestial. His status was revered. He also wanted face. Private talk? We are neither relatives nor friends. What's there to talk about? If you want to talk, then talk here. The people here are all my relatives and friends. They are my good brothers. If you want to talk, then go ahead. If you don't want to talk, then forget about it. I still need to accompany my 2 children. Ho Fei's tone was not courteous in the slightest. At this moment, Qin Yu was able to sense that Ho Fei's state of mind was fluctuating violently. The current Ho Fei was completely different from the usual Ho Fei. If the usual Ho Fei were to see the unfettered exalted celestial, how could he possibly dare to speak? Everyone, you can leave first. Do not disturb them here. Qin Yu immediately called out to the surrounding people. Zhang Lan, Yi Feng and them also sensed that the atmosphere between the unfettered exalted celestial and Ho Fei was a bit special. Tactfully, they all greeted the unfettered exalted celestial and then left the courtyard. In the end, even Zi Xia and Hong Yun left the courtyard with the 2 infants. Fei, talk openly and honestly with Senior Unfettered Exalted Celestial. Clarify the matter. Qin Yu instructed Ho Fei. Got it, big brother. Ho Fei nodded to Qin Yu. Qin Yu slightly bowed to the Unfettered Exalted Celestial and then left the courtyard. After Qin Yu left, only Ho Fei and the Unfettered Exalted Celestial remained in the courtyard. On a stone stool not far from the courtyard, Qin Yu sat down. Big brother, is the monkey truly related to the Unfettered Exalted Celestial? Kuro also sat down on the stone stool beside Qin Yu and immediately asked Qin Yu. Don't worry, we'll know soon. It's useless to guess now. Qin Yu frowned. At the same time, Qin Yu's new cosmos's spatial energy was completely spread out. It covered the entire courtyard. The other god kings did not dare to use their divine awareness to investigate for fear of being discovered by the unfettered exalted celestial. However, Qin Yu was not afraid. His new cosmos's spatial energy was able to clearly observe everything in the courtyard. As Qin Yu observed everything, he thought to himself, Exalted Celestial, if you want to talk, then talk. Don't fight. No matter what, Qin Yu would not tolerate his brother being bullied. Within the courtyard, Ho Fei and the Unfettered Exalted Celestial were both standing. In fact, based on appearance alone, Ho Fei and the Unfettered Exalted Celestial were rather similar. They were both relatively thin. However, Ho Fei had a tyrannical aura about him, while the Unfettered Exalted Celestial was very indifferent. If you have something to say it quickly. Ho Fei said directly. The Unfettered Exalted Celestial was not angry at all. He said, Ho Fei, I am your father. There is no doubt about that. From your birth until now, I know most of the things that have happened to you. I can also use images to replay those things for you to see. Ho Fei, if I didn't constantly observe you, how would I know what happened to you in the past? After all, even exalted celestials do not possess the ability to calculate the past or the future. The Unfettered Exalted Celestial said with a smile. If it wasn't for the fact that you're related to me, as an exalted celestial, how could I constantly pay attention to you? Ho Fei was startled. He must admit that what the Unfettered Exalted Celestial said was very reasonable. Only Zhang Lan and Zhang Li knew about the things that had happened in his childhood. As for the things that he had done with Qin Yu, only Qin Yu and Kuro knew about them. If the Unfettered Exalted Celestial wanted to investigate the things of the past, he would have to soul-search Zhang Lan, Qin Yu and them. Things of the past? Who knows what abilities the Exalted Celestials possess? I am also not an Exalted Celestial. With just this, it is impossible for me to prove that you're my father. Furthermore, whether or not you're my father is completely unrelated to me. Ho Fei had an evil smile on his face. Senior Unfettered Exalted Celestial, from my childhood until now, I have experienced a lot. I have fought with my big brother and mixed hairbird in the mortal realm sea region, in the immortal mansion. I have fought one battle after another. From the mortal realm to the divine realm, I have walked step by step. In my entire life, I do not have the word father in my memories. Whether or not I have a father is also meaningless to me. I only thought of myself as someone who jumped out from a stone. Hearing what Ho Fei said, the unfettered exalted celestial's complexion turned pale. Enough, senior unfettered exalted celestial, you are an exalted celestial, a high and above exalted celestial. There is no need for you to tease me here. To be honest, for you to suddenly say that you're my father, I am truly a bit displeased. That is because I do not like others to control me. I like to be free. Without a father to control me, without a mother to raise me, this sort of life is pretty good. Ho Fei smiled to the unfettered exalted celestial. Then, he walked toward the entrance of the courtyard. Ho Fei! The unfettered exalted celestial shouted. Enough! Did you not understand my words? I'll say it again. Regardless of whether or not you're my father, it is unrelated to me. After he finished saying that, Ho Fei directly opened the courtyard's entrance and walked out. Ah, son, daughter, let your father hug you. Ho Fei's loud voice sounded again. Chapter 686. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, nearly 5 years had passed since the birth of Ho Fei's 2 children. In these 5 years, the unfettered exalted celestial had come to the purple mystic mansion dozens of times. Senior unfettered exalted celestial, Fei is accompanying the 2 children in the back garden, Qin Yu said to the unfettered exalted celestial with a smile. Thank you, the unfettered exalted celestial smiled at Qin Yu. Seeing the back of the unfettered exalted celestial, Qin Yu sighed in his heart. In these 5 years, the unfettered exalted celestial had never given up. However, no matter what method the unfettered exalted celestial used, Ho Fei simply ignored him. On the contrary, the 2 children of Ho Fei were quite fond of the unfettered exalted celestial. Brother Yu, don't think about it. Fei knows what to do, Zhongli said to Qin Yu with a smile. Qin Yu nodded with a smile. Oh, that's right. Brother Yu, your new cosmos should be reaching perfection soon, right? Zhongli suddenly recalled this matter. Hearing that, Qin Yu couldn't help but smile. Qin Yu had always been paying attention to the development of the new cosmos. I reckon there's still a year before it reaches perfection, Qin Yu said with a smile. Zhongli couldn't help but reveal a joyful smile. When you reach perfection, I reckon you'll have a way to save Qin Shuang. Sigh, that child is becoming more and more rebellious. His own cultivation progress was too slow. On top of that, his father and mother were both god kings. His brother's cultivation progress was also very fast. Naturally, Qin Shuang also felt very uncomfortable. After a long time, it was normal for Qin Shuang to become rebellious. However, Qin Yu and Jiang Li had no way to deal with the rebellious Qin Shuang. It'll be fine after another year, Qin Yu thought to himself. After about an hour, the unfettered exalted celestial walked out from the back garden. At this moment, the unfettered exalted celestial had a happy smile on his face. However, Qin Yu knew very well that the unfettered exalted celestial was happy because he was playing with the 2 children. In the past 5 years, unfettered exalted celestial had almost given up on making Ho Fei acknowledge him as his father. Qin Yu, goodbye, Heavenly Premier Unfettered said with a smile. With the unfettered exalted celestial's ability, it was easy for him to enter the purple mystic mansion. However, every time he came or left, he would inform Qin Yu. After all, Qin Yu was the owner of this place. Qin Yu and Jiang Li immediately stood up. By the way, Qin Yu, I have something to tell you. Exalted Celestial Carefree suddenly thought of something and looked at Qin Yu with a smile. In about 3 to 4 months, the new Exalted Celestial will be born. The birth of a new Empyrean? 3 to 4 months. Qin Yu and Jiang Li were shocked. Qin Yu suddenly thought of many things. The time was determined. And now, the 3 portions of the Living World Seal were respectively in the hands of Zhong Fan and Luo Fan. It would be extremely difficult for either of them to gather all 3. Could it be that the new Exalted Celestial will be decided by the person behind the Exalted Celestial? Qin Yu thought in his heart. I am merely telling you this information. Well then, farewell. The unfettered Exalted Celestial immediately teleported and disappeared from the Purple Mystic Mansion. As for Qin Yu and Zhang Li, who had received this information, their hearts were surging. Qin Yu immediately decided to gather Uncle Lan, Zhuo Qiulin and them. This information was something that he must definitely tell them. It was actually only a short 3 to 4 months until the birth of the new Exalted Celestial. This information had indeed shocked the God Kings of the Purple Mystic Mansion. However, compared to them, the other God Kings of the Divine Realm, such as the Azura God King, did not know about this. Regardless of whether it was the Azura God King Luo Fan or the utmost northern region's floating snow cities Zhong Fan, they were both wholeheartedly researching the incomplete Exalted Celestial's spiritual treasure. In the misty space that Zhong Fan had set up, time was accelerated by 5,000 times. To Zhong Fan, accelerating time by 5,000 times for a long period of time was a bit difficult. Zhong Fan sat cross-legged in the air. 2 seals were floating before him. One was gray and the other was golden. After training for all these years, Zhong Fan had only managed to slightly improve his time acceleration. As for time stop, it could be said that he did not have any comprehension. To Zhong Fan, becoming a God King through comprehending time reversal could be considered as an impossible task. A month passed. In a blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Inside the Purple Mystic Mansion. Big Brother, according to what that unfettered Exalted Celestial said, the birth of the new Exalted Celestial ought to be in the near future. It might even be possible for it to be today. Kuro said from the side. Qin Yu and Zhang Li smiled. Well then, Xiaohei, could it be that you want to become an Exalted Celestial? Qin Yu looked to Hou Fei with a smile. I do not care about becoming an Exalted Celestial. Merely, I am curious as to who would become the Exalted Celestial after all these years and all these God Kings that have died. Kuro said with a smile. Boom! Suddenly, a loud explosion sounded. After the loud explosion, suddenly, the sound disappeared. All the sound in the entire Divine Realm disappeared. For those that had yet to reach the God King level, even their soul had stopped moving. Only the God Kings and the Exalted Celestials were able to think. Suddenly, an extremely beautiful music sounded in the minds of the God Kings. All of the God Kings in the Divine Realm appeared to have been hypnotized. One by one, they began to fly toward the direction of the Exalted Celestial Mountain. No, there was still a God King in the Divine Realm that was awake. Qin Yu. Qin Yu, who had fused with the Cosmic Origin Energy and was in harmony with the new Cosmos Cosmic Origin Energy, his soul was extremely awake. Although that music was peculiar and beautiful, it was unable to shock Qin Yu. Strange, strange. Qin Yu's new Cosmos Spatial Energy covered the entire Divine Realm. This Divine Realm seems to have been affected by time stop. Only the God Kings are unaffected. Qin Yu discovered that the wind in the Divine Realm had stopped. The waves in the ocean had also stopped. All of the heavenly deities and demons were motionless. Even their gazes were lifeless. Evidently, at this moment, their souls had stopped moving. They no longer possessed the slightest ability. Qin Yu saw that Zhang Li, Zhuo Qiulin, Kuro, Yi Feng, Zhang Lan, Cheho Yuan, Jiang Xing, Tang Lan, Putai Hong, from the Purple Mystic Mansion, all of the God Kings had flown out. Even the God Kings are being controlled? Qin Yu was shocked. Qin Yu immediately pretended that he was being controlled and also flew out with these God Kings. Under the observation of Qin Yu's new cosmospatial energy, the other God Kings of the Divine Realm, such as Zhong Fan from the utmost northern region's floating snow city, the Blood Sea Queen from the Western Sea, the Azura God King from the Azura Sea, Mu Yu from the Eastern Sea, and other God Kings also flew out from all directions of the Divine Realm. Whoosh! At practically the same time, all of the God Kings teleported to the surroundings of the exalted celestial mountain. Qin Yu also teleported to the outside of the exalted celestial mountain. Seeing the millions of miles tall scarlet exalted celestial mountain before him, Qin Yu was thinking in his heart. The entire divine realm seems to have been affected by time stop. However, none of the god kings felt it. They were even able to teleport. Why is this? Why is that music so miraculous that even god kings are able to control it? Qin Yu was puzzled. At this moment, all of the god kings of the divine realm, over 30 of them, were gathered in the surroundings of the exalted celestial mountain. Other than Qin Yu, none of the other god kings were completely awake. Buzz, the red membrane that covered the entire exalted celestial mountain, which was known as the God King Prison, suddenly disappeared. The other god kings all flew towards the canyon where the spiritual treasure origin cauldron was located. Qin Yu naturally followed after them. When all of the god kings flew into the canyon, the red membrane actually reappeared. At the same moment when the red membrane reappeared, the music that sounded in the minds of the god kings also suddenly disappeared. All of the 30-plus god kings present had completely woken up. What's going on? Many god kings cried out in alarm. What a great technique! Qin Yu sighed in his heart. All of the people of the divine realm who had yet to reach the god king level were in time stop. Furthermore, their soul fluctuations were all still. In the entire divine realm, only these god kings and exalted celestials were awake. This is the exalted celestial mountain. It would seem that it is the same as last time. All of us god kings have been brought here. This also means that the exalted celestial is about to be born. Blood Sea Queen Shui Yun sneered and said. Within the canyon, the 30-plus god kings were standing at various locations. As god kings that were born 6 quadrillion years ago, all of them were experienced. Soon, the god kings calmed down. Exalted Celestial, Big Brother, who do you think will be the exalted Celestial? At this moment, Kuro was also extremely excited. We'll know in a while, Qin Yu said with a smile. However, at this moment, very few god kings in the canyon were able to smile. That was because practically all of the god kings were feeling nervous in their hearts. They were all hoping that they would become the god king. Times the billions of deities of the divine realm and the hundreds of thousands of heavenly deities were all in silence. At the center of the divine realm, on the enormous scarlet-red exalted celestial mountain, the god kings were all anxiously waiting. The spiritual treasure origin cauldron was the same as before. It was not moving at all. Blue sky seal. Luo Fan suddenly shouted anxiously. All the god kings in the canyon couldn't help but look at the Azura god king. A cyan-colored seal flew out from Luo Fan's body and flew towards the spiritual treasure origin cauldron. One of the god kings reacted quickly and actually grabbed the blue sky seal. Bang! Right after he touched the blue sky seal, that god king vomited blood from the shock. Luo Fan also rushed over and grabbed at the blue sky seal. Following a muffled sound, Luo Fan was knocked flying. His complexion was deathly pale and blood was flowing out from the corner of his mouth. What's going on? I have already refined the blue sky seal. Luo Fan was at a loss. All of the god kings present were puzzled. The blue sky seal that was clearly refined was not under Luo Fan's control. This was something that none of them had ever encountered before. Last time, when the exalted celestial mountain descended, the unfettered god king was secretly helped by the floating feathers exalted celestial and directly obtained the various parts of the exalted celestial spiritual treasure. Naturally, he became an exalted celestial in the end. However, it was different this time. The 3 portions of the exalted celestial spiritual treasure were obtained by 2 people. This is interesting. Qin Yu looked at the blue sky seal that was floating above the spiritual treasure origin cauldron and started to laugh. The floating blue sky seal was faintly emitting a cyan light. However, it did not allow any of the god kings to grab it. Back Earth seal. A gray-colored seal flew out from Zhong Fan's body. How could Zhong Fan possibly allow his treasure to fly away? Even though he had learned from the Azura God King's mistake, Zhong Fan still impatiently grabbed at it. Bang! Without exception, Zhang Fan was seriously injured. All of the other god kings did not attack. They watched as the back earth seal flew toward the spiritual treasure origin cauldron. In the end, the back earth seal also floated above the spiritual treasure origin cauldron. It stood side by side with the blue sky seal. Brother Zhang Fan, never would I have expected that the back earth seal had actually ended up in your hands. Shun Tuyen exclaimed. Now, we only lack the all-people seal. Many people looked to Qin Yu. That was because they knew that Qin Yu had obtained the all-people seal in the end. Whoosh! The all-people seal that was emitting a golden light flew out from Zhang Fan's body. This time around, Zhang Fan did not try to grab it. That was because he should know that it was impossible for him to stop it. Many of the god kings were shocked. The back earth seal and all-people seal were actually both in Zhang Fan's hands. Blue sky seal, back earth seal, all-people seal. At this moment, these three seals were floating close to each other. They were emitting light in all directions unceasingly. It has been nearly 40 years since the descent of the exalted celestial mountain. Now, the exalted celestial spiritual treasure, the living world seal, shall be born. A new exalted celestial shall also be born. A cold and indifferent voice resounded through the entire exalted celestial mountain. All of the god kings were immediately shocked into silence. Big brother, who spoke? Kuro sent a voice transmission to Qin Yu. Not only was Kuro confused, the other god kings were also confused. However, they all understood that the person who spoke was likely related to the person who had unconsciously brought all of them to the exalted celestial mountain. Three seals gather, living world seal, appear. That voice was extremely cold. Buzz. The three floating seals started to shine brightly. The cyan, gray, and golden-colored lights were revolving unceasingly. In the end, they gradually fused together. All of the god kings present were staring at the three seals. In the end, the light gradually weakened. A palm-sized seal appeared above the spiritual treasure origin cauldron. That palm-sized seal was quietly floating in the air. Only a faint layer of light was flowing on its surface. Living World Seal. Exalted Celestial Spiritual Treasure. Living World Seal. The eyes of all the god kings present had turned slightly red. With the appearance of the Living World Seal, a new exalted celestial shall also be born. Among the god kings of the divine realm, the one who is most qualified to become the new exalted celestial is. All of the god kings held their breaths. However, Zhang Fan, Luo Fan and them were so nervous that their bodies were trembling. Their palms were sweating. They were all waiting for that name. God King Che Hoyun. That cold and indifferent voice spoke the answer. However, this answer had stunned Luo Fan, Zhang Fan, the Blood Sea Queen and a large group of people. Che Ho Yuan, how could it be him? Zhang Fan, Luo Fan, the Blood Sea Queen and them were all unable to believe it. We have fought for so many years. How could it be him in the end? After fighting for so many years, after so many god kings had died, the person who became the exalted celestial in the end was actually someone who did not participate in the competition. They had fought for so many years. What was it for? Everything was merely fishing for the moon in the water. In the end, it was all for naught. At this moment, Che Ho Yuan was still in a state of shock. As for the Living World Seal, it directly flew to the top of Che Ho Yuan's head. 3 colored rays of light shot out from the Living World Seal and covered Che Ho Yuan's entire body. At the same time, all of the god kings felt that the space where Che Ho Yuan was located in had instantly accelerated. What an astonishing time acceleration! At the very least, it's several 100 million times. The degree of time acceleration caused Qin Yu's heart to tremble. All of the god kings were looking at Che Ho Yuan, who was covered by the 3 colored rays of light. After fighting for so many years, the person who became the god king in the end was Che Ho Yuan, who had returned to the divine realm. At this moment, Qin Yu did not know that the thunder punishment exalted celestial was waiting in the sky above the divine realm. He was waiting for Che Ho Yuan to completely become the exalted celestial. The moment when Che-Ho Yuan became the Exalted Celestial would be the moment when the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial would act. Today's update is complete. As for tomorrow, it would be the end. Thinking about the end, even Tomato was confused. He did not dare to believe that it was actually going to be the end. Haha, 11 months plus. Every single detail of the 11 months plus had appeared in Tomato's mind and caused him to sigh endlessly. However, it would still end tomorrow. Where there's a beginning, there must be an end. Chapter 687. In the sky above the divine world, Qin Yu and the other god kings thought that this was the highest point of the divine world. In reality, there was another space above the so-called highest point. There were endless auspicious clouds here, and at the end of the auspicious clouds was a beautiful palace. Eldest senior brother, why are you in such a hurry? Although the birth of the new exalted celestial and my master wanted to summon us, it would merely require an extremely short amount of time for me to act and kill that Qin Yu. After I killed Qin Yu, I would still be able to make it in time to go to the White Cloud Hall to see my master. Eldest senior brother, why are you stopping me? The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial angrily said to the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial. At this moment, the Flutter Feather Exalted Celestial and the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial were flying one after the other. As for the new Exalted Celestial Che-Ho Yuan and the Unfettered Exalted Celestial, they should have already reached the center of power of the entire universe, the White Cloud Palace. The reason why the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial was a bit slower was because he had gone to intercept the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial. Second junior brother, is Master's matter more important, or is your matter more important? Empyrean Flutterfeather's voice was cold. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial's heart immediately palpitated with fear. Earlier, he was filled with anger because he was stopped by the Fluttering Feathers Exalted Celestial when he was about to attack. Only now did he recall the strength of the Fluttering Feathers Exalted Celestial and his influence in front of his master. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Empyrean Thunder Punishment respectfully and humbly said, I thank Senior Apprentice Brother for the guidance. Honorable Master's matter is indeed important. If it weren't for Senior Apprentice Brother's guidance, I would have been blinded by hatred. It's good that you know. After meeting Master, whatever you do has nothing to do with me. Empyrean Flutterfeather's face had a hint of coldness. Yes, Elder Senior Apprentice Brother. Empyrean Thunder Punishment suppressed the anger in his heart. Qin Yu, I will allow you to live a little longer. Empyrean Thunder Punishment had long wanted to kill Qin Yu. But because of the rules laid down by his honorable master and the threat of his elder senior apprentice brother, he had no choice but to endure. However, now that Che-Ho Yuan had become the new Exalted Celestial, he, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial, could finally take revenge and kill Qin Yu. However, when he tried to do so, he was stopped. How could he not be angry? We've arrived at White Cloud Hall, Empyrean Flutterfeather said indifferently. In the distance was the White Cloud Palace, located deep within the countless auspicious clouds. It was the core of the White Cloud Palace that controlled the divine realm, the countless immortal, devil and demon realms, and the countless mortal realms. Empyrean Thunder Punishment immediately restrained his aura. As he stepped onto the steps of White Cloud Hall, he was much more humble. Empyrean Fluttering Feathers and Empyrean Thunder Punishment entered White Cloud Hall one after another. The entire White Cloud Hall was very strange. The flow of time inside the White Cloud Hall was constantly changing. Sometimes, it was several times faster. Sometimes, it was 1,000,000 times faster. Sometimes, it was billions of times faster. In short, the flow of time in the entire White Cloud Palace was constantly fluctuating. In a large hall inside the White Cloud Hall, Exalted Celestial Carefree and Exalted Celestial Che-Ho were standing respectfully to the side. In the center of the hall, there was a young man with a muscular build standing with his hands clasped behind his back. Empyrean Thunder Punishment immediately said respectfully, Greetings, Master. Greetings, Master. Empyrean Flutterfeather also said respectfully. At this time, the long-robed young man also turned around. He had a head of dark brown hair, deep eyes, and a warm smile. However, the long-robed young man had a frightening power that caused one's heart to palpitate. This person was Lin Meng, the person that Qin Yu addressed as second brother. After seeing his master, Empyrean Thunder Punishment's hatred towards Qin Yu was immediately buried in the depths of his heart. He did not dare to show any disrespect in front of his master. That was because he knew that his master could make him a celestial. However, his master could also make him lose everything in an instant. In the divine realm of the new cosmos that was close to perfection, Qin Yu was sitting cross-legged in midair. The divine realm of the new cosmos was currently desolate. There was no other life in it. Qin Yu's soul was in harmony with the new cosmos. Thus, he was very clear about the evolution of the new cosmos. Qin Yu was very clear about it. In Qin Yu's mind, there was a model of the evolution of the new cosmos. The divine realm is the highest level of the entire universe. It controls the power of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It controls the power of yin and yang. It also controls the power of lightning and punishment. The origin of the universe also needs to be in harmony with it. Qin Yu sensed the changes in the new cosmos. He was very clear about the operation of the new cosmos. Buzz. The entire divine realm shook violently. After that, the divine realm stabilized. Qin Yu couldn't help but have a happy expression on his face. The third layer of the new cosmos, the divine realm, was finally complete. Even if the divine realm is complete, it's still a small step away from the completion of the new cosmos. I reckon it'll take another month or 2. At this moment, Qin Yu was very clear about it. What the entire divine realm needed to do now was to make the divine realm, the immortal, devil and demon realm, the countless spaces, and the countless spaces of the mortal realm. These 3 layers formed an organic whole to make the new cosmos even more complete. At this moment, the speed at which the new cosmos absorbed the grand mist spiritual energy was relatively slow. That was because the new cosmos had already reached the final stage of perfection. As time passed, the new cosmos gradually became more complete. Huff! A burst of grand mist spiritual energy was absorbed into the new cosmos. Boom! The entire new cosmos violently shook. Qin Yu immediately displayed an expression of ecstasy. His new cosmos was finally complete. However, immediately after, Qin Yu's expression became solemn. Within Qin Yu's mind, Qin Yu's glassy-colored soul was yuanying. Because the new cosmos was complete, a peculiar and mysterious energy was unceasingly assimilating into Qin Yu's soul. Qin Yu's soul immediately emitted a scarlet-red color. Then, it turned golden yellow. After that, it turned hazy purple. Soon after, his entire soul became hazy. All kinds of colored lights were unceasingly radiating in all directions, enveloping his entire mind. Buzz. Qin Yu's hazy soul suddenly dispersed. It disappeared into thin air. Haha, so that's how it is. So it's actually like this. Qin Yu suddenly opened his eyes. Within his eyes, nebulae were circulating and the evolution of the cosmos. Qin Yu stood up. And now, half of my soul has actually directly fused with the entire new cosmos. Then, as long as the new cosmos is not destroyed, I will be eternal. After the new cosmos was complete, Qin Yu's soul level advanced by leaps and bounds. Then his entire soul split into 2. One half of his soul directly fused with the new cosmos. The other half of his soul completely fused with Qin Yu's body. The current Qin Yu's soul had become an existence of nothingness. There was no way to harm it at all. As for his body, Qin Yu smiled and beckoned with one hand. Immediately, a stream of Shenhuang energy flew in front of Qin Yu. Since the new cosmos was complete, there was naturally no need for the Shenhuang energy to determine the 5 elements. When the new cosmos was complete, Qin Yu naturally learned of many peculiar divine abilities in his mind. When the new cosmos was born, the Shenhuang energy was the most miraculous. I only need 60% of the Shenhuang energy to be able to cultivate the Xian Huang indestructible body. With a thought, Qin Yu caused the majority of the Xian Huang energy to fuse into Qin Yu's body. Instantly, Xian Huang energy shot out from Qin Yu's body. Qin Yu extended a finger. A celestial spiritual treasure? From the looks of it, it's just an ordinary weapon. Once I cultivate the Xian Huang indestructible body, I can easily destroy a celestial spiritual treasure with a single finger. Qin Yu smiled faintly. The new cosmos was not the only divine ability. There were many other peculiar divine abilities. Among them, the most important one was the creation of all life divine ability. This newly born divine world is really desolate. Qin Yu smiled as he looked at the newly born divine world. Suddenly, an endless amount of seawater appeared in the desolate divine world. There were also 5 huge floating continents in the north, south, east, and west. Compared to Lin Meng's divine world, Qin Yu's divine world had a much larger land area. There's too little life. Qin Yu looked at the ocean and saw that it began to roll. A huge flood dragon that was 10,000 miles long began to roll in the ocean. One by one, underwater monsters were born out of thin air. Then, countless different kinds of monsters were born. Qin Yu only created a few monsters. After that, he stopped. It was very complicated to fill the new cosmos with life and various civilizations. Qin Yu did not have the energy to do so for the time being. As the creator of the new cosmos, the divine abilities he possesses are indeed various. Qin Yu was not in a hurry to return to the divine world. Instead, he began to experiment with various divine abilities. Phew! After walking out of the White Cloud Hall, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial let out a long breath. Every time I face Master, the pressure is not small. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial instantly thought of Qin Yu. Qin Yu? Fortunately, the flow of time in the White Cloud Hall is not too fast. Only 1 year has passed in the outside world. Looking down, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial seemed to be able to see the purple mystic mansion through the endless auspicious clouds. Qin Yu, you killed 3 of my sons and 2 of my grandsons. Now, it is time for you to die. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial's heart was filled with anger. He rushed towards the purple mystic mansion. The purple mystic mansion was as peaceful as before. A purple-robed, silver-haired old man appeared in the sky above the purple mystic mansion. At this moment, the red mole between this old man's eyebrows was unprecedentedly beautiful. It was like dripping blood. He's not here? The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial frowned. He scanned the entire purple mystic mansion with his divine sense but was unable to find Qin Yu. This caused the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial to feel a burst of anger in his heart. Not here. That's easy. You killed several of my sons. Now, I'll take back some interest. A cruel smile appeared on the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial's face. Qin Yu, come out. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial suddenly shouted. Qin Yu, come out. Qin Yu, come out. Qin Yu, come out. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial's voice was like 1,000 claps of thunder as it echoed throughout the purple mystic mansion. Everyone in the purple mystic mansion, including the God Kings, were all wrapped up by a terrifying pressure. Then, they were all brought to the vast plaza in front of the purple mystic mansion. Over 1,000 people were brought to this place. Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial. Zhang Lan, Zhuaqiulin and them immediately recognized him. Their expressions immediately turned extremely ugly. Many of the Qin descendants also recognized him. They had all seen the image of the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial through the water screen. Speak, where did Qin Yu go? The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial stood in the sky above the plaza like a demonic god. The God Kings below were all frightened. There was no need to mention the heavenly deities and deities. As for the Qin descendants who were still immortals, they were even more afraid. Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial, what are you planning to do? Kuro was the first to shout coldly. Amen. The thunder punishment exalted celestial humphed coldly. Pfff. As if his chest had been ruthlessly punched, Kuro directly sprayed out blood and fell to the ground. His complexion instantly turned pale. The strength of an exalted celestial was not something that god kings could withstand. I'll ask again. If no one answers, I'll directly begin to search your soul. The thunder punishment exalted celestial said coldly. Mother, when will father return? Qin Si sent a sound transmission to Zhongli. Zhongli lightly shook her head. Mother doesn't know either. However, he should be back soon. Little Si, no matter what, we cannot let your father fall into danger. There were over 1,000 people from the Purple Mystic Mansion on the plaza. Even with the addition of the God King servants, there were close to 20 God Kings. However, when facing the murderous thunder punishment exalted celestial, the God Kings did not have the slightest bit of power to resist. For the last time, where is Qin Yu? The thunder punishment exalted celestial's expression was cold. Ha ha. Thunder punishment exalted celestial, with your methods, are you worthy of being an exalted celestial? If you want to kill me, then kill me. As for my big brother, you won't be able to find him at all. When you find him, my big brother will have sufficient strength to kill you. Kuro said coldly. Kuro had grown up with Qin Yu. In terms of feelings, most likely even Kuro and Qin Yu were not as deep as Qin Feng and Qin Zheng. Thunder punishment exalted celestial carefree is Ho Fei's father. You also know of the relationship between exalted celestial Che Ho and our Purple Mystic Mansion. If you attack us, even these two exalted celestials will not let you have an easy time. Zhongli loudly said. Good, good. The thunder punishment exalted celestial laughed from extreme anger. Exalted celestial carefree? Exalted celestial Che Ho. The people from the Purple Mystic Mansion did not know that the thunder punishment exalted celestial was not afraid of those two. The only person he feared was the floating feathers exalted celestial. Hoo! The thunder punishment exalted celestial extended his hand and lightly pressed down. The 1,000+ people present all felt a terrifying pressure. They couldn't help but kneel down on one knee. Your mouth is the hardest. Then, I'll use soul search on you. The thunder punishment exalted celestial coldly smiled as he looked at Kuro. He extended his hand and Kuro floated towards the thunder punishment exalted celestial. Monkey! Ho Fei immediately became anxious. As for Kuro's wife, Bai Ling, she was so anxious that she was about to cry. However, it was useless. Kill me? Humph, if you kill me, you will also die in the future. Kuro looked at the thunder punishment exalted celestial without fear. Thunder punishment exalted celestial, stop. A voice filled with anger sounded out. The 1,000+ people present, including the thunder punishment exalted celestial, couldn't help but look towards the source of the voice. They saw the black-robed Qin Yu walking over, one step at a time. Qin Yu's complexion darkened as he stared at the thunder punishment exalted celestial. Qin Yu. For some unknown reason, when the thunder punishment exalted celestial saw Qin Yu appear, he felt his heart fiercely twitch. A trace of fear surged out from the depths of his heart. What am I afraid of? He is nothing more than a god king. The thunder punishment exalted celestial steeled his heart. Ha ha, stop? What a joke. Today, I will kill him and then kill you. The Origin Sin sword suddenly appeared in the thunder punishment exalted celestial's hand. The Origin Sin sword transformed into a beam of light that swept towards Kuro. Its speed was so fast that the God Kings were unable to block it in time, nor did they dare to block it. Big brother, goodbye. Kuro didn't even look at the Origin Sin sword. Instead, he turned his head to look at Qin Yu, his gaze focused on Qin Yu. Xiao Hei, you will not die. Qin Yu's voice resounded in Kuro's mind. Qin Yu himself appeared in front of Kuro. The Origin Sin sword directly chopped down on Qin Yu's body. Like a wooden sword chopping down on a diamond, Qin Yu wasn't harmed in the slightest. The The thunder punishment exalted celestial was dumbfounded. The god kings below were also stunned. The thunder punishment exalted celestial's origin sin sword was an Empyrean spirit treasure. Everyone knew how powerful its attack was. Yet, when it chopped down on Qin Yu's body, it wasn't able to harm Qin Yu in the slightest. Qin Yu extended his forefinger and middle finger and clamped down on the origin sin sword. Impossible, impossible. The thunder punishment exalted celestial roared. He couldn't believe it at all. He constantly urged the origin sin sword to move, but when it was clamped down by Qin Yu's fingers, the origin sin sword was unable to move. It could only hum incessantly. Are you surprised? Qin Yu coldly smiled. With a snap of his fingers, pang! With a clear sound, the origin sin sword broke. Qin Yu flicked his 2 fingers. The broken section fell directly to the ground. This scene caused the thunder punishment exalted celestial to be stunned. This is an Empyrean spirit treasure bestowed upon me by my master. The thunder punishment exalted celestial couldn't believe it. Empyrean spirit treasure? Qin Yu lightly flicked his middle finger on the broken origin sin sword. Immediately, the broken origin sin sword shattered into several tens of pieces and fell to the ground. The thunder punishment exalted celestial stood there motionlessly. His strongest reliance, the origin sin sword, was so easily destroyed by Qin Yu. This was simply too great of a blow to him. In merely a short while, the thunder punishment exalted celestial recovered. Impossible! Absolutely impossible! Impossible! The thunder punishment exalted celestial was hysterical. With a low roar, he moved his hands and a frightening power immediately formed between his hands. It was the single breath 8 elements. Junior brother, do not be rude. A loud shout was heard. A silver-haired, silver-eyed youngster flew over from the sky. Seeing that it was his eldest senior brother, the thunder punishment exalted celestial could not help but frown. However, the single breath 8 elements in his hand continued to swing toward Qin Yu. Impudent! The floating feathers exalted celestial coldly shouted. He waved his hand and a black light flashed past. The single breath 8 elements dissipated. Eldest senior brother, why did you stop me? The thunder punishment exalted celestial was finally unable to restrain his anger. He pointed at Qin Yu. Eldest senior brother, this Qin Yu killed 3 of my sons and 2 of my grandsons in succession. This enmity is absolutely irreconcilable with him. Furthermore, the origin sin sword that Master bestowed upon me was also destroyed by him. This enmity, this hatred, senior brother, tell me, how can I not take revenge? The corners of the thunder punishment exalted celestial's eyes were torn apart. His eyes were completely red. The red mole in between his eyebrows was unceasingly twisting and trembling. The floating feathers exalted celestial did not pay any attention to the thunder punishment exalted celestial. Instead, he respectfully flew before Qin Yu. He then bowed and said, I pay my respects to Martial Uncle. Congratulations to Martial Uncle for your great success. Master has asked this disciple to invite Martial Uncle to the White Cloud Hall for a chat. Martial Uncle? The thunder punishment exalted celestial who was filled with hatred and wanted to kill Qin Yu was now completely stunned. Qin Yu smiled and said, Oh, I got it. Crevcore, wait a moment. I will go with you to see second brother. Second brother? The thunder punishment exalted celestial felt that his brain was not enough. Martial Uncle, you have greatly disrespected my second junior brother. However, I hope that Martial Uncle will be magnanimous and allow Master to personally punish my second junior brother. The floating feathers exalted celestial said respectfully. Qin Yu slightly nodded. Good, he is second brother's disciple. As for how to punish him, let second brother decide. Soon after, Qin Yu turned around. With a wave of his hand, a surge of life energy entered the bodies of the people below. In an instant, all of their injuries were completely healed. Compared to the God King of Life's life divine energy, it was many times more miraculous. Big brother, you've succeeded? Kuro's eyes were filled with excitement. Chin-yu looked to Kuro. A strong sense of brotherly affection emerged in his heart. For a moment, Chin-yu was unable to say anything. He merely patted Kuro's shoulder. Brother Yu. Zhang Li also flew over. Zhang Lan, Qin Si and them all flew over. Earlier, when everyone saw the frightening strength that Chin-yu displayed that greatly surpassed the exalted celestials, they were all truly shocked. There was no other explanation. There was only a single possibility. Chin-yu's new cosmos had finally succeeded. Li Er, Uncle Lan, everyone, rest here for a while. I will go out first. Chin-yu instructed. Earlier, everyone had also heard that Chin-yu was going to see the Masters of the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial and them. Just thinking about it caused them to feel fear. An Exalted Celestial actually had a master? Brother Yu, go ahead. Zhang Li immediately nodded and said. Chin-yu smiled to everyone. He then turned around and looked to the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial. Krevkor, let's go. The Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial nodded. He then shouted to the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial. Second junior brother, quickly follow me to the White Cloud Palace. Martial uncle? Second brother? At this moment, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial still felt that everything was extremely strange. Chin-yu was clearly a god king. How did he suddenly become the brother of his master? Quickly, let's go. The Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial shouted coldly. Yes. Eldest senior brother. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial immediately followed the Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial and Chin-yu. The three of them directly flew upward. Soon after, they disappeared from the sight of the 1,000+ people of the Purple Mystic Mansion. Brother Zhang Lan, did I mishear earlier? That Floating Feathers Exalted Celestial addressed Chin-yu as martial uncle? This Exalted Celestial actually has a master? What is the name of this Exalted Celestial's master? God King Yi Feng was also extremely shocked. Not only him, those God King servants Tang Lan, Putai Hong, Shen Tian, Huang Fu Lei, all felt as if they were dreaming. They were all thinking, if the Exalted Celestial was already that powerful, then how powerful would the Exalted Celestial's master be? Zhang Lan, Zhuoqiulin and them looked to the ground. The several tens of fragments of the Origin Sin sword were on the ground. Everyone felt a burst of shock in their hearts. The scene of Chin-yu effortlessly flicking his finger and shattering the Exalted Celestial's spiritual treasure, the Origin Sin sword, into several tens of fragments appeared in their minds. What sort of strength is that? The God Kings all felt fear in their hearts. Countless auspicious clouds were floating. Deep within the auspicious clouds, in that White Cloud Palace. At this moment, Lin Meng was standing before the entrance of the White Cloud Palace. Behind him were the Unfettered Exalted Celestial and the Che-Ho Exalted Celestial. When Lin Meng saw Chin-yu's arrival, he immediately laughed and shouted, Chin-yu, we finally meet again. Chin-yu also smiled and nodded. Second brother. Let's go to the palace. Lin Meng immediately led the way. Regardless of whether it was Che-Ho Yuan or the Unfettered Exalted Celestial, they were both shocked. So the martial uncle Lin Meng spoke of earlier was actually Chin-yu, who was only a god king. Inside the White Cloud Palace. Chin-yu, please have a seat. Lin Meng and Chin-yu sat side by side in the palace hall. There were also several maids in the palace hall that immediately brought out all sorts of exquisite dishes. As for the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial and the other three, they were standing respectfully in the palace hall. Chin-yu before this settled the matter with Zhou, and Lin Meng saw the expression on Chin-yu's face and immediately said, Zhou is the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial's original name. Only then did Chin-yu learn about it. This disciple is guilty. Master, please punish me. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial, Zhou, directly kneeled down. Chin-yu also looked down at the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial. At this moment, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. Clearly, he was extremely afraid. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial had a lot of children. Not only were there children from the Thunder Punishment City, there were also children from the lower realms. To him, the death of several of his children was nothing much. Merely he, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial, had been in a high position for a very long time. Since Qin Yu had offended him, he naturally had to take revenge. And now he was afraid. You also know about it, Lin Meng said indifferently. Very well. Zhou, I will not punish you too heavily. From now on, I will deprive you of your position as an exalted celestial and destroy all of your cultivation so that you can reincarnate once more. As for whether you will be a human or an animal after reincarnating, what sort of accomplishments will you have? That will depend on your luck. Right after those words left his mouth, the Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial was immediately stunned. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. According to Second Brother's words, this Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial will have to experience countless calamities in the future without all of his cultivation. No, Master. Master, didn't you say back then that our Zhou clan is destined to have the life of an Exalted Celestial forever? How could you deprive me of my position as an Exalted Celestial? Why? The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial was unable to accept this. Lin Meng's expression turned cold. Your Zhou clan is indeed destined to have the life of an Exalted Celestial forever. However, that does not mean that you will never fall. You, Zhou, only have the life of an Exalted Celestial for 2 evolutions. Right now, 2 evolutions have already passed. Your life as an Exalted Celestial has reached its end. After the cosmos had reached grand completion, Qin Yu came to know a lot of information. Evolutions was a method of calculating time. Every 6 quadrillion years was an evolution. Lin Meng continued, as for your Zhou clan, not long after your fall, that young man, Zhou Qing, will become the first person in my Lin Meng universe to comprehend time reversal on his own and become an Exalted Celestial. Comprehending time reversal on his own? No wonder Second Brother asked me to give the Thunder Origin Spiritual Pearl to that Zhou Qing. Qin Yu, who was at the side, was also surprised. Qin Yu knew very well that as the creator of a universe, everything in the universe was under his control. Even the fate of anyone in the universe could be calculated. However, this was Lin Meng's universe. Qin Yu was unable to calculate Zhou Qing's fate, but Lin Meng could. Zhou Qing? No, how could it be him? The Exalted Celestial of the Zhou clan should be me. The Thunder Punishment Exalted Celestial was unable to accept this at all. Humph. Lin Meng coldly snorted and waved his hand. No, Exalted Thunder Punishment's horrified voice had just sounded when his entire body turned to dust. Only a speck of light disappeared from the world. The hearts of the 3 Exalted Celestials below trembled. In truth, at the level of Qin Yu and Lin Meng, an Exalted Celestial wasn't much at all. They could make someone their universe's Exalted Celestial at any time. After settling the matter of Exalted Thunder Punishment and eating, Qin Yu and Lin Meng walked out of White Cloud Hall side by side. Qin Yu, now that your universe has reached grand completion, it's about time you went to see your big brother. Lin Meng said with a smile. Qin Yu often wondered in his heart, Second Brother is Lin Meng? Who is this big brother? Qin Yu still didn't know much about the outside world. But from what Lin Meng said, this big brother should live in the Grand Mist Space. In the past, Qin Yu hadn't been able to enter the Grand Mist Space. But now that his new universe had reached grand completion, Qin Yu could easily enter the Grand Mist Space. Within the Grand Mist Space, endless slowly flowing Grand Mist spiritual energy flowed. Qin Yu and Lin Meng flew side by side. Wherever they passed, the Grand Mist spiritual energy would automatically open a path for the 2 of them. The Grand Mist space was vast and boundless. Qin Yu and Lin Meng were chatting and laughing. Second Brother, I remember that when I was in the immortal, devil and demon realm, I reached the black hole realm. When I heard someone say, "Little friend, we'll be waiting for you," it was you and Big Brother, right? There were also people who said, "I'm not alone on my path." Qin Yu said with a smile. Qin Yu had been thinking about this question for a long time. Lin Meng laughed. "You're talking about that?" "That's right, it was indeed me and Big Brother. Back then, the two of us were simply too happy. Big Brother and I really didn't expect that there would be someone who could connect to the Grand Mist Space. When you can connect to the Grand Mist Space, in fact, when you reach that step, even if your cultivation technique isn't perfect, Big Brother and I can still help you. However, you're very amazing. You walked step by step and relied on yourself to reach the most perfect step." Qin Yu also smiled. "Qin Yu, you can't imagine the mentality of Big Brother and I. The time I waited can be considered short. It's only been a bit more than 2 evolutions. Big Brother, on the other hand, has waited over 1,000 evolutions. The two of us are looking forward to having more people like us. After all, we've been alone for too long." Lin Meng said with a sigh. Qin Yu's heart trembled. Over 1,000 evolutions? A single evolutions was 6 quadrillion years. Over 1,000 evolutions. How long was that? That Big Brother of his had truly been alone for a long time. Big Brother Lin Meng, according to what you said, there should only be 3 universes in the entire Grand Mist Space right now? Qin Yu said. Lin Meng nodded and said, "That's right, there are only 3 universes. Big Brother's universe is the oldest. My universe is also 2 evolutions. As for yours, haha, I reckon you haven't even created life yet." Qin Yu nodded. "That's right, I haven't had the time yet. There's no need to rush. However, Qin Yu, speaking of this, Big Brother and I both admire you greatly." Lin Meng said with a sigh. "Oh, admire me?" Qin Yu asked, a bit surprised. Lin Meng smiled and said, "You might not know, but when I first cultivated the Grand Mist body, I relied on my striking power to break through the barriers of my original universe and rush into the Grand Mist Space. Then, I met Big Brother and he taught me how to create a universe. Only then was I able to create it. As for Big Brother was the first life form in the entire Grand Mist Space. After he was born, who knows how long it took for him to learn how to create a universe and create life. Big Brother's talent is extraordinary. He was the first life form in the Grand Mist Space. It doesn't matter if he created a universe, but what about me? I only rushed out of my original universe. As for you, without my help or Big Brother's help, you created a universe on your own. Tell me, if you can do this, how could Big Brother and I not admire you?" Qin Yu smiled. However, Qin Yu also knew that the Grand Mist Space was extremely dangerous. Unless one cultivated the Grand Mist body, where one's body and Grand Mist spiritual energy could fuse into one, they wouldn't be harmed. Or, if one had the black-yellow indestructible body, they would be able to resist the pressure of the Grand Mist Space. Even an Empyrean didn't have the ability to enter the Grand Mist Space. Currently, in the entire universe, the only ones that could enter the Grand Mist Space were Qin Yu, Lin Meng, and his Big Brother. That's right, second brother. When Lin Meng's Empyrean Mountain descended in the universe, you finally chose Empyrean Che-Ho Yuan. Why is that? Is his virtue high? Qin Yu asked, puzzled. Qin Yu simply couldn't understand why Lin Meng would choose Che-Ho Yuan. Che-Ho Yuan, speaking of Che-Ho Yuan, to be honest, he has been wronged. Lin Meng sighed. Wronged? Qin Yu was surprised. Lin Meng nodded. Qin Yu, you might not know, but this Che-Ho Yuan's accomplishments in the refining path have already reached the pinnacle. The fixed origin bead that he finally created is simply a prototype of the universe. Qin Yu recalled the fixed origin bead. The inside of the fixed origin bead was only a universe. Prototype? Second brother, what do you mean? I also know about the fixed origin bead. Although it is strange, there are no space laws or time laws within it. Qin Yu said, puzzled. Lin Meng smiled and shook his head. Big Brother and I carefully observed Che-Ho Yuan for a long time. In truth, the process that Che-Ho Yuan used to create the fixed origin bead was nearly identical to how Big Brother used Grand Mist spiritual energy to create the universe. Exactly the same. Qin Yu looked at Lin Meng. Yes. Unfortunately, Che-Ho Yuan was unable to enter the Grand Mist space. The materials he used were taken from various mortal worlds, and in the end, they complemented each other and the effect was similar to Grand Mist spiritual energy. But, those materials didn't have the effect of Grand Mist spiritual energy. In the end, he was only able to create the fixed origin bead. Lin Meng shook his head and sighed. If this Che-Ho Yuan had used his talent on cultivation, he might have been able to rush out of the universe and create a new universe. However, he spent all of his energy on refining tools because he was unable to use a large amount of Grand Mist spiritual energy. No matter how talented he was, the fixed origin bead was far from a universe. Qin Yu nodded. He somewhat understood. What a pity. A person who could have been like us walked down the wrong path. Thus, I decided to compensate him and allow him to become an Empyrean. It's just that I still feel regret for him. Lin Meng shook his head and sighed. Qin Yu also felt regret. When Qin Yu first saw the fixed origin bead, he had felt that it was very similar to the universe. Within the fixed origin bead, even the space laws couldn't be used. This was already a rough prototype of the universe. Unfortunately, creating a universe required a massive amount of Grand Mist spiritual energy. Even if this Che-Ho Yuan ran through millions of mortal worlds and gathered all sorts of materials, no matter how good they were, they still wouldn't be able to compare to the primordial Grand Mist spiritual energy. As Qin Yu and Che-Ho Yuan chatted, every step they took was as long as a divine world. After chatting for a short while, Qin Yu and Lin Meng arrived at their destination. In the depths of the boundless Grand Mist spiritual energy, there was a floating cottage. In front of the cottage, there was a short but sturdy osmanthus tree. Under the osmanthus tree, there was a stone table. Around the stone table, there were 3 stone stools. This was the residence of their big brother. The surroundings were filled with boundless Grand Mist spiritual energy. In the center, there was a floating land with a radius of several tens of meters. Qin Yu took a step into the floating land in front of the cottage. His gaze landed on the middle-aged man sitting by the stone table. This middle-aged man was wearing a simple sackcloth gown. His long hair was casually draped over his shoulders. His entire person was slovenly. At this moment, he was drinking wine cup after cup. His eyes were fixed on a golden book in front of him. Big Brother. Lin Meng immediately moved. The middle-aged man raised his head. He saw Lin Meng, then looked at Qin Yu. He was instantly overjoyed. Haha, this must be my third brother, Qin Yu. Haha, this is wonderful. I finally get to meet you, third brother. The middle-aged man was extremely enthusiastic. He immediately stood up and greeted Qin Yu and Lin Meng. Qin Yu and Lin Meng immediately sat down. Come, come, come. Have a taste of the wine I made. This wine is made from many materials from my universe. It's very good. The middle-aged man flicked his sleeve, and wine cups appeared in front of Qin Yu and Lin Meng. Lin Meng smiled towards Qin Yu. Qin Yu, Big Brother is a very good person. You don't need to be so reserved. Right, Big Brother hasn't told you his name yet. His name is Hongmeng. Hongmeng. Qin Yu was startled. Hongmeng laughed. Is there anything you don't understand? Haha, to be honest, because I'm the first living being in this space, I named this space the primordial space. Qin Yu was enlightened. Qin Yu, I waited over 1,000 evolution epochs for Lin Meng to appear. But, I never imagined that after just 2 evolution epochs, you would appear. I am truly overjoyed. Haha. Hongmeng laughed loudly. The first living being in the primordial space was also extremely excited. Only by creating a universe could one be considered a life on the same level as Hongmeng. Hongmeng was naturally overjoyed to have 2 of his own kind. Qin Yu, there is something else I need to tell you. Your universe hasn't been completed yet. Hongmeng laughed as he spoke. He flicked his sleeve, and a mirror made of water appeared in front of him. 3 massive universes appeared on the mirror. Qin Yu turned his head to take a look. What's going on? Qin Yu was shocked. Qin Yu immediately recognized that the rightmost universe was the universe he had created. The other 2 universes were created by Lin Meng and Hong Meng. Now you know the difference. Lin Meng's universe, besides the main universe in the center, has 4 subsidiary universes around it. The subsidiary universes are only 1/10 the size of the main universe. However, this can make the main universe more stable. This state is also the most perfect state. Hongmeng waved his hand, and a leaf fell from a nearby cassia tree. Hongmeng handed the leaf to Qin Yu. Qin Yu, the method to create the 4 subsidiary universes is inside. Don't worry. When you return and have nothing to do, just create them. Thank you, Big Brother Hongmeng. Qin Yu immediately received the leaf. Qin Yu, you only have the ability to calculate the fate of the beings in your universe, right? Hongmeng laughed. Qin Yu nodded, puzzled. Big Brother Hongmeng, is there something strange about that? Lin Meng and I can calculate the fate of any living being in our universe. Once your universe has living beings, the 2 of us can do the same. Hongmeng said mysteriously. Why is that? Qin Yu didn't understand. Lin Meng laughed. Big Brother, stop teasing Qin Yu. Summon the primordial golden roll. Primordial golden roll. Qin Yu heard a name he had never heard before. You will know in a while. Hongmeng waved his hand, and Qin Yu could clearly see a golden roll in the distance. It passed through the endless primordial spirit qi and floated over from billions of kilometers away. That golden roll flew in front of Qin Yu, Hongmeng, and Lin Meng. Phew! Qin Yu could clearly feel that the golden roll had a special kind of pressure. It actually made his heart palpitate. Qin Yu carefully looked at the roll. This primordial golden roll was 6 meters long and half a meter wide. The entire primordial golden roll was gold in color. Behind the primordial golden roll, there was a huge word that was the same size as the primordial golden roll. This word was very strange. Qin Yu recognized it at a glance. It was exactly the same as the All People seal in the All People seal. He couldn't recognize it with his eyes, but the original meaning of this word naturally appeared in his mind. That huge word was Meng. Now, the first row of the primordial golden roll also had 2 words side by side. They were also complicated words, but Qin Yu could easily recognize them. They were Hong and Lin. Qin Yu, this is the primordial golden roll. As long as you are listed on the primordial golden roll, you will have the identity of a primordial master. As a primordial master, you can calculate the fate of almost every life in the primordial world, no matter which universe it is. At the same time, you can use the energy of any universe. Hongmeng said with a smile. Primordial master? Qin Yu was shocked. The primordial space is boundless. As time passes, universes will naturally appear one after another. This primordial golden roll is naturally born from the primordial space, just like me. This primordial golden roll is used to manage the entire primordial space. Hongmeng said with a smile. Lin Meng nodded. Qin Yu, as long as you fuse a wisp of your soul imprint into it, you will become a primordial master. The first row of the primordial golden roll only takes up half of the 2 words Hong and Lin. The first row can have 2 more words. Qin Yu said with a smile. With a thought, Qin Yu sent a wisp of his soul power over and fused into the primordial golden roll. The primordial golden roll suddenly lit up. The golden light shot out from the primordial golden roll and instantly covered the endless space. Even the 3 universes were within its range. Moments later, the primordial golden roll returned to its normal state. The first row of the primordial golden roll was Hong, Lin, and Qin. All of a sudden, A boundless amount of information gushed forth from Qin Yu's mind. This included the information regarding the Grand Mist space as well as all the information regarding the Grand Mist cosmos and the Lin Meng cosmos of his big brother and second brother. As expected. As a primordial master, he knew the information of any universe. He could calculate the fate of any person. So that's how it is. Qin Yu finally understood why the first row of the primordial golden roll could have 4 rows of words. I didn't expect primordial masters to be divided into ranks. The third brother Qin Yu smiled and sighed. Of course. The big brother Hong Meng nodded. Those in the first row of the primordial golden roll are first-grade primordial masters. They are the highest-grade primordial masters. Besides these 4, the others are ordinary masters. Qin Yu also understood. As time passed, people who created universes would appear one by one. Naturally, there would be a hierarchy. The first 4 people would be first-grade masters. As for the people after that, they would be ordinary masters. They would be controlled by the first-grade masters. Although the primordial space is boundless, the primordial golden roll has set the rules for the stability of the primordial space. In the entire primordial space, only the 4 largest universes are allowed to be created. Qin Yu, your universe, my universe, and Big Brother's universe are all the same size. There will only be 4 such large universes. As for the future, even if someone creates another universe, it will only be 1% the size of our universe. Qin Yu nodded. Qin Yu also understood that the strength of the creator of a universe was proportional to the size of the universe. The larger the universe, the more powerful the various supernatural powers. There are only 4 first-grade masters. Now there are 3. I wonder who will be lucky enough to obtain the last spot. Qin Yu said with a smile. Qin Yu also knew that after being listed on the primordial golden roll, Qin Yu had an additional name, Qin Meng. Qin Meng, Qin Yu's universe, was also called Qin Meng Universe. The people who create universes should be born from people whose fates cannot be predicted. Hong Meng said with a smile. Qin Yu nodded. After becoming the primordial master, Qin Yu was able to predict the fates of almost everyone in the universe. However, it was only almost. In a universe, there were dozens of people whose fates Qin Yu was unable to predict. For example, Qin Yu, Lin Meng. I was unable to predict your fates. Both of you succeeded. Of course, there are over 10,000 people in every era who are unable to predict their fates. However, those who are able to create universes are extremely rare. Hong Meng smiled and shook his head. Hong Meng suddenly cried out in surprise. Lin Meng, in your universe, there is a mortal world space. There are actually 6 people with uncertain fates in that space. It was almost inconceivable. In a single era, there were only over 10,000 people in a universe. Normally, in a single moment, there would only be dozens of people whose fates were uncertain. But in a single universe, there were over 10 million mortal worlds. In these 10 million mortal worlds, there were actually 6 people with uncertain fates in the same space. Oh. I also discovered that space. Alright, that space is a technological universe. It is the hometown of one of Qin Yu's masters, Lei Wei. Lin Meng said with a smile. Qin Yu also managed to calculate it. The hometown of his master, Lei Wei, was a technological universe that was already extremely advanced. In that mortal world space, there were actually 6 people with uncertain fates. Moreover, 3 of them were on Earth. Haha, let me fill in the blanks and see if this space can give birth to a primordial master. Hong Meng laughed. He picked up a cup of wine and casually sprinkled it. That cup of wine immediately pierced through the primordial master space and flew into the technological universe of the mortal world. Finally, it flew towards Earth. Although it was only a cup of wine, it was meticulously brewed by primordial master. It might not be of much use to Qin Yu, Lin Meng, and the others, but that cup of wine was extremely useful to God Kings and Empyreans. Big brother, second brother, I haven't had a good time with my wife and children after I succeeded. I also haven't seriously created anything in the Qin Meng universe. Then I'll take my leave first. When everything is settled, I'll come back and have a good time with you. Qin Yu said with a smile. Hong Meng and Lin Meng both smiled and nodded. The future is endless. There will be plenty of time. Hong Meng said with a smile. Qin Yu immediately left. With a teleport, he disappeared into the endless primordial master space. As for Hong Meng and Lin Meng, they were still in the primordial master space. They were drinking and chatting in front of a floating thatched cottage. Purple Mystic Mansion. A group of people gathered in the courtyard. What, you still haven't found him? Zhang Li was anxious. At this moment, the entire Purple Mystic Mansion was clamoring. Many people had gone out to search for Qin Yu's youngest son, Qin Shuang. No one had expected that Qin Shuang had actually slipped away by himself. Mother, don't worry. Second brother might have gone somewhere to play. He will return soon. Qin Si comforted her. Li Er, don't worry. Many god kings have gone out to search for him. They will definitely find him. Zhang Lan comforted. At this moment, Kuro and Ho Fei were also here. Qin Shuang's sudden disappearance had indeed caused the entire Purple Mystic Mansion to be in a state of chaos. Qin Shuang's strength was too weak. Thus, everyone was naturally worried about him. Sigh, this child little Shuang, I merely scolded him and he actually slipped away. It's all my fault, all my fault. Zhang Li complained to herself. Li Er, what's wrong? From the entrance of the courtyard, Qin Yu, who was wearing a black gown, walked in with a smile on his face. When they saw Qin Yu, the large group of people in the courtyard immediately calmed down. With Qin Yu here, the matter would definitely be settled quickly. Brother Yu. When she saw Qin Yu, Zhang Li was about to cry. Little Shuang has disappeared. I merely told him that Brother Yu's martial technique had reached a large success and that you would be able to help him increase his cultivation speed. However, this child actually rebelled and said that he would be able to do it by himself. At that time, I did not pay attention to it. Never would I have expected that when I turned around, he had already disappeared. Seeing Zhang Li about to cry, Qin Yu said, Well then, don't worry. Little Shuang is fine now. He has gone to a mortal realm. With a thought, he knew where his son was. Mortal realm? Zhang Li felt relieved. In the mortal realm, that Qin Shuang could be considered to be safe. Qin Yu also knew that it might be because his father, mother and older brother all had great accomplishments that this son of his had become too depressed. This had caused him to have a rebellious personality. Li Er, little Shuang is currently in the hometown of my master Lei Wei, that technological cosmic space. Qin Yu smiled and looked at Qin Si beside him. Little Si, you must also focus on your cultivation. Who knows, little Shuang might have greater accomplishments than you in the future. Oh. Qin Si was somewhat surprised. However, Qin Yu himself knew very well that his youngest son, Qin Shuang, was someone whose fate was uncertain. And now, Qin Shuang had gone to the mortal realm science and technology cosmic space where the number of people whose fate was uncertain was the highest. What path would his son take in the future? Qin Yu himself could not be sure. Li Er, Xiao He, Bai Ling, Fei Fei, Zi Xia, Hong Yun, my Qin Meng cosmos has already been completed. Now is the time for me to create all kinds of living things. You all should also follow me and try to explore it. At the same time, you all should give me some ideas," said Qin Yu while smiling. Ho Fei and Kuroa's eyes immediately lit up. Wow, create all kinds of life forms. Ho Fei was so excited that his body started to tremble. Even Kuro started to laugh happily. Uncle Lon. Qin Yu was about to say something. Zhang Lon said with a smile. Well then, I'll play chess with your father and them, enjoy tea and chat. As for that exciting life of yours, it's better for you all to do it yourselves. Qin Yu nodded with a smile on his face. Gaga, let's go. Ho Fei shouted excitedly. Qin Yu, Zhang Li, Kuro, Bai Ling, Ho Fei, Zixia and Hong Yun. These three brothers brought their wives and directly stepped into the new cosmos. They began to create the new cosmos, life forms and civilization. After stepping into the Qin Meng universe, Big Brother, why is this universe called the Qin Meng universe? Ho Fei asked. Oh, that's because... Qin Yu was about to answer. However, Qin Yu suddenly recalled something. That kid Qin Shuang is also someone whose destiny cannot be determined. If he were to truly become the Grand Mist Master and be ranked on the Grand Mist Golden Rankings, then wouldn't there be two Qin Mengs? Would he have the same name as his father? As Qin Yu thought about it, he started to smile. In his heart, he was also looking forward to Qin Shuang's future journey. Immediately after, Qin Yu, Ho Fei and Kuro brought their wives and began the interesting days of creating civilization and life. As for Qin Yu's son, Qin Shuang, he also began a journey on Earth that was not inferior to his father's. End of book. Chapter 688. I would like to thank everyone for their support over the past 11 months. During this time, Tomato has finally completed his third novel, Stellar Transformation. This novel did very well. But in the later stages of Stellar Transformation, Tomato's body and mind couldn't take it anymore. Tomato wrote 3 Xianxia novels, and the 3 books had a total of 6 million words. Writing Xianxia novels all the time made him mentally tired. In addition, Tomato had been coughing for the whole of April. Even though the coughing subsided, it didn't stop. Well, Tomato had enough time to rest now. As for the new book, the new book will be a Western fantasy novel. Tomato had been thinking about this novel even before Stellar Transformation started. After thinking about it for a year, Tomato was more and more confident about this novel. Actually, writing Xianxia novels all the time was mentally tiring, and the passion was getting less and less. But Tomato was still full of passion for writing Western fantasy novels. Tomato felt that, yes, it could be said that Tomato's new book, this Western fantasy novel, Tomato was confident that it would catch up or even surpass Tomato's previous 3 novels. May 21st. The new book, this Western fantasy novel, will be uploaded on May 21st. Tomato will inform everyone when the time comes. As for how the new book will turn out, everyone will know when they read it on May 21st. Yes, that's all. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.